Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 22nd of May, 2026. I'm CareyHolzman, and today another mini PC to review. This one was purchased by our funds created by our members in green who support the channel. And without them, we would not have this product today. In fact, not only did they pay for it, they recommended it. Mark Leibowitz and our good friend Andy were talking about this particular machine, which is from a manufacturer I've never heard of before called ADREAMER. And I'm always looking for something new, whether it's a new model from a familiar manufacturer or even better, a whole new manufacturer I've never seen before. So let's evaluate it and see if it's something I would recommend or not during today's live show. I've got the box right here, just kind of a plain brown box. And what attracted me to this was value. When Mark Leibowitz and Andy in our chat room both saw the same thing, which is basically this has the potential to be a really good bang for the buck. And I said, well, let me review it and we'll verify if it is or not. Now, right out of the gate, Andy had pointed out that they have a mistake in their listing over on Amazon, and the product is not available on their homepage. So ADREAMER has a website where this does not exist. So I don't know if this is an older model and that's why it's so discounted. They also don't have that longer warranty. They're only a 1-year warranty, which is standard. But compared to some of the others we've been looking at lately that have had longer warranties, I think Camry and Miniswarm are at 3-year warranties now. So we're still at 1 year on this. But the mistake was that they mentioned the processor and then the built-in graphics on the processor, and Andy pointed out that that graphics chip is not in that processor. For some reason, probably they were just copying and pasting the product description. These manufacturers don't really spend a whole lot of time. I don't know why. I don't know what makes them so busy when something so important as your Amazon page is underselling your product with an older card, an older GPU than what it really has. That's not doing you any favors. If you falsely list the product as being weaker than it really is, you're probably going to see dismal sales because you didn't want to spend the time equaling money to actually list it accurately. But they don't know they did that. So hopefully they'll see the video and they'll correct their mistake. But we'll get more into that in just a bit when we look in the specs, and I appreciate Andy pointing that out to us because it went right by me until he pointed it out. I was like, wait a minute, I think he's right. And, you know, quick chat with Gemini later, and Gemini confirms their listing is wrong, and Gemini even explains how that happens, which is just what I said. They just copy and paste, you know, it's like a template, and it's just laziness on behalf of the seller, which in this case is the manufacturer. There's also a language barrier, which doesn't help, but the model numbers don't change regardless of what language you speak. So we're going to look into that, but basically they're underselling this computer by saying it's weaker than it really is. Now, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about it the other way around. Are they saying it's better than it really is? So we're going to look at it firsthand today, as I mentioned, and give a shout out to our good friend Buster, as always. Sends us an Amazon gift card prior to the show starting, and he said he'll catch up with us tomorrow. So thank you so much, Buster, as always. And our good friend Charlie Purdy also sends an Amazon gift card just prior to the show starting. It's generosity like that that buys products like this so we can make videos like these. So a super shout out and thank you to everybody in green. And in addition, those giving above and beyond with these generous contributions so we can continue to make purchases and have an independent voice here on YouTube instead of representing a corporation. It's a strange society we live in now where if I worked for Intel and I was reviewing an AMD processor, you would probably not believe everything I'm telling you is 100% clear or transparent, that I might be leaving information out to only highlight how Intel is better, right? Because I'm hired by Intel. But what if I'm an independent enthusiast or what do we call these? Influencer on YouTube, and Intel wants to hire me to review AMD? How would you as a viewer know that I am behind the scenes getting paid by Intel? just so I could tear down AMD. Without officially working for Intel, I would be working for Intel. And not disclosing that payment should be illegal, in my opinion. However, how you would enforce that, I have no idea. But here we try to keep everything very obvious and clear. And I want people to be able to verify and to know without a doubt that what I'm telling you is true. So whether or not you agree with my opinion, at the very least, you'll know that my opinion comes from my values, running my professional computer repair business. I've been in this industry 35 years, and whether or not it meets my standards. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Furthermore, I want to just kind of thoroughly look at the computer on its software, drivers, and hardware level to just let you know what to expect if you want to buy it. How does it open? What's the BIOS look like? Is it loud? Is it fast? Is it slow? Does it feel cheap and flimsy? Stuff like that. That way, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. You can form your own opinion, and that I'm not persuaded to pick mostly positive or mostly negative. It's just should always be the same here. So that way I will tell you what you need to know to make your own decision, and I'll tell you what my decision is. That's it. I'm not suggesting whether or not you buy something or you don't. Just because I'm introducing you to somebody there's nothing in it. If I introduce you to somebody and you guys become best friends, there's nothing in it for me. I'm just happy to see some people I know that like each other. In much the same way, when I evaluate these computers, whether you choose to buy one or not, I'm not a salesman. I don't work for these companies, and I honestly couldn't give a rat's behind if you want to buy one or not. So don't feel offended. Well, go ahead and feel offended, but see how far that gets you on this channel, that you don't like what I have to say. Start your own channel and do it yourself. And then let me and others come on there and tell you how you're wrong, and we'll see if we can come to a mutual terms of agreement for respect that is reciprocal. But if you can't get the same in return, and I can't dish it back out to you, we'll likely just remove you from the channel, because we want a supportive and kind community who understands what's going on here. And it's not a crime to not understand, but it is a crime when it's explained to you if you insist that basically you have a higher rated opinion or more respected opinion than my own. It's a very strange way to communicate with people, explaining how important you are when we don't know who you are. So please don't exhibit that behavior. Other than that, if you're watching the video live, we would love you to pop into our chat room, because we are an interactive YouTube channel, meaning unlike television or traditional edited videos here on YouTube, we're here to build relationships with our viewers by communicating with you during our live shows. But if you're disrespectful, if you don't have any sense of decorum, we will boot you out. So we'll ask you, just don't even waste your time. But if you want to be part of something bigger in a group of like-minded individuals and make some new friends, we would love to have you here. So pop in and say hello. That's how it all starts. Just with a hello, and watch what happens. Watch how friendly our chat room is. And so we'd love you to be a part of it. Speaking of which, let me say hello to all of our friends in green and in white joining us in the chat room today. Who do we have in there? We've got Isaiah saying hello, and Bradley Morris, Sean Skinner, and David Graham. David Herzog and Mark Gaines are joining us and saying hello. Lou Greenia says hello from Vermont, along with Eddie Casanova and Andy Winbridge. I see Ben Laird from Scotland saying hello. There's Richard DeFries. And hold on, scrolling. John Lewis joining us from Brazil. There's Dom Parada. Mark Baggett, Anthony SF says hello. Jim Kenny and Andy W6AD says hello. Damelin says hello in our chat room. I also see Chris Johnson, Frank Jimmy. Frank says he just set up or assisted a customer with the setup of a new Minis Forum UM760 Mini PC, and they absolutely love it. Yeah, I think a lot of people who don't like mini PCs are people that have never actually experienced one. It's pretty easy to not like something that you've never actually tried. I see that online all the time where people speculate and have an imagination, and they seem to confuse that with reality and think it's the same thing. But they're just doing that to themselves. You know, if they want to limit their life and their experience by not having those experiences, what a full life, huh? But that's awesome. Patrick Manny joins us along with Bradley Pagliaro saying hello. There's Paul Vircher and Dazzle555 and Stephen Detroit all saying hello. So again, you know, if I'm not calling out your name, it's probably because you're not in here. So pop on in and say hello. We'd love to see you. All right, with that, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at VIP-URCDKEYs. They're who I buy my Windows and Office keys for my business. Ordinarily, a business owner would never, ever tell you where they're buying their products because you could just buy the products directly, couldn't you? And then that business owner would go out of business, wouldn't they? But I'm not being like other business owners. I only service the Phoenix area, and most of you don't live there. So I can give away all my secrets, and it doesn't have one impact on my business or the other, but it could potentially help out the folks I buy from by giving them more sales and help you out by buying quality products at low prices that I count on for a business. So I have a lot to lose if I'm wrong. You, on the other hand, could lose $15. I could lose my entire career. So with that, whether or not you choose to buy it, once again, I'm just making introductions here. I don't make a commission if you buy it or you don't. Underneath every video that I make, so I'll pull up a video from March. Underneath the video description, you see my name, and then below that, you'll see, you know, how many views it has. Right in that box where it says more, click on that. And then you're going to see the video description that has all the links for everything we were talking about in that video, software, hardware, whatever. In there is also the links for Windows 11, Windows 10, Microsoft Office, etc., etc. Now, you could go to VIP-URCDKEYs directly and search for it yourself, but these links are just to get you there quicker. Again, there's no commission here, so you don't have to use the links, but you save yourself some time. When I click the Buy It Now button, you'll see it wants me to sign in. That is critical so that they know who to send the product key to securely and safely. And once you've logged in, then you can go ahead and put my name in, C-A-R-E-Y, and hit apply, and that's going to lower the price by 25%. Now, you don't have to do that either. You can pay full price and not use the coupon code. That's up to you. After you submit that, it's going to accept that and then ask you for how you want to pay for it. You're going to follow the on-screen instructions to get it paid for. And then within about 2 minutes after you're done, you're going to get an email with the instructions on where to download the product, which will come from Microsoft. And if you already have the product, like in my case, I already have Windows and Office, then all you need is the activation key. And if you ever log in individually with your name and password, you'll be able to then look at your purchase history should you ever need to pull that information in the future, and you don't need to contact support. Speaking of support, they do offer 6 months of free support after the sale. So if you have any problems, they will take care of you. And if there's any problems beyond that, you reach out to me directly. All right, because if I find out people aren't getting what they're paying for, we're not going to endorse them anymore. But they've been perfect to work with. There's been a couple mistakes, very few and far between, and they've all been resolved. So if Uncle Carey needs to get involved, that's how firmly I stand behind this company, because I truly believe they're a great value and good people. I see Mara's waiting around. I think she wants to talk to me.
Take your time. I just want to let you know.
I have an email. Okay, thank you. Well, we'll check that now before we get too deep into today's video. Oh, Paul Vircher sends us an Amazon gift card. Very nice. Thank you, Paul. I enjoy this channel, he says. I enjoy it so much, and I feel it is great entertainment. Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say. I like to think of it as edutainment, combining education and entertainment. But I'll take entertainment. Thank you. And thank you for your support, as always. It's never expected, but always appreciated. All right, so today we are looking at the ADREAMER. Again, this was brought to us initially. I think Mark Leibowitz brought it to our attention, and then Andy got behind it. And I was already interested because it's a manufacturer I never heard of. And despite all the scouring I do on a regular basis on Amazon looking for something to review, with the money that we've got in gift cards, I never saw this. It never showed up. I don't know how you guys found it. I'm so glad you did. But what is it? Well, let me go over to the Amazon page. There's no point going to the ADREAMER website because they don't have this on their website. So let's grab the window capture. Right. Hold on a second. That up. Window capture. There it is. Okay, that should bring it up. So here is the live Amazon page, and you'll see there's a couple different models down here. And we're on this first one that says ADREAMER. It's an Ariebox10, and it says it's an AMD Ryzen 7 7840HS with 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM. I want you to keep this in mind, because the 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM and that's Gen 4 512 gig NVMe drive, those two things alone are worth $300. So you're basically getting the whole computer for $78. Actually, no, on 16 gig, yeah, it could be. It could be as much as 300. It could even be more than that, depending on if it's a single or it's probably a single stick of RAM, honestly. But we can open it up and check. But it's not supposed to be soldered on RAM or anything like that. And somewhere in here they had mentioned, yeah, Radeon 680M. So the Radeon 680M, yeah, and it says it right here too. That looks like a copy and paste error where somebody who just really doesn't care about their job is damaging their own company by underselling this. This is a generation older. So if you look at a 7840HS, in fact, let's just open a new tab. Let's go to Gemini, just for fun. Does a AMD 7840HS come with a 680M Radeon? No, it doesn't. It comes with a 780M Radeon. The 680M belongs to the previous generation, RDNA 2. This is RDNA 3. See, why would they do that to themselves? So even ask Gemini, why does ADREAMER advertise their mini PC with a 7840HS CPU and a 680M GPU? You want to know why they do that? When you see brands like ADREAMER or other white label third-party sellers on platforms like AliExpress, Amazon, or Newegg listing this processor with that video card, it usually comes down to one of three common reasons. It's never because the chip actually contains that hardware, but rather a byproduct of how these budget mini PCs are manufactured and marketed. Basically, the number one reason is lazy template copy and paste. Most of these smaller brands use the exact same chassis, motherboard layout, and marketing asset templates across multiple generations of mini PCs. So once one person gets it wrong, they just copy and paste, the competitors copy and paste the same exact wrong information. Just like people do on Twitter and other social media sites. What's the common denominator? People. Bring on the AI. At this point now, because society is getting dumber, clearly, AI should be a warm embrace to finally better accuracy than we're getting from fellow humans. So this is a prime example. So before releasing the 78, like the Ariebox10, they likely sold a model featuring the previous model, and they just copied and pasted it. Yeah. Then there's keyword stuffing. If you look closely at the product pages for brands like ADREAMER, Chatry, or MSC Core, they frequently combine multiple CPU tiers into a single listing with a drop-down menu. To ensure their product ranks in search results for as many buyer queries as possible, they will aggressively jam every single specification into the title. Well, that's not the case here. Also, there's the misinterpretation of the AMD naming scheme. And AMD's naming scheme is confusing, and so is Intel's, by the way. But because the Ryzen 7 7735 uses the 680M, it's incredibly common for a non-technical copywriter to assume all Ryzen 7s that start with 7000 will feature the same integrated graphics. That's the level of ignorance that's happening in my industry, where people are working in my industry that have no business being in my industry. And, nothing I can do about it but make you aware of it and encourage you to verify anything you believe. Anything before you choose to believe it, verify it. Always ask questions. And the ability to get answers now on your own to help yourself is easier now than ever before. You can even just ask your phone, go into your favorite chat bot like Gemini, hit the microphone button and talk to it just as though you were talking to a person. And unlike tech support based in another country, the answer will be accurate, consistent, and won't have a heavy accent for you to try and interpret. Bring on the AI. Couldn't get here fast enough. Anyway, basically, the explanation is the 4 in the 7840 represents an entirely different architecture shift from Zen 3 to Zen 4, and that's what triggers the jump from RDNA 2 to RDNA 3. Wouldn't that be RDNA 4 if that's Zen 4? That's not how it works. So you can understand, if you don't have a technical mind, you have no business being in this business. And when companies hire people that are in over their heads, it's costing the company money. In this case, ADREAMER, if they had the information correct, would probably sell more units. But because the information's wrong and in a negative way, it's appearing that this computer is a year older than what it really is. So, if the marketing information is bad, then the sales are going to be bad. So it says here, the reality check. If you buy an ADREAMER Mini PC and verify that it actually does have a 7840HS, then you're going to get the Radeon 780M. There's no option. The hardware is physically baked into the chip. You can't swap it out. It's not modular. They only make it one way. This ain't Burger King. So just a text error on the store page. And you're going to see this more, like I said, on the AliExpress or the smaller, what they're calling here, white label third-party sellers, which they would refer to in China as traders, people that trade. Not traders, not people that are trying to espionage their own country. All right, let's go back over to camera 1. And let me make a few little changes here. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. And let's go back over to the chat room. Essential Working Too Hard joins us and says hello. He says, happy Memorial Day weekend, everyone. Welcome in and back at you, my friend. Brian Weber says hello. Filament on Fire is joining us as well. Right on. Welcome in, everybody. Rick Lakes says hello. Good to see y'all. And let's get to some unboxing. Go over here. Camera. Well, not just yet. All right. Are you ready? Let me move that aside. This is my first experience with it live on camera, and here goes nothing. Unboxing the ADREAMER Ariebox10 Ariebox. You'll see nothing is wrapped in here. Everything is just normally this would have, like from other manufacturers when we unbox mini PCs, this is normally enclosed in a bag or a cover of some kind, but they got such nice padding here. I guess they feel they don't need it. It's covered on the top, bottom, left, right, forward and backward with this foam. So yeah, probably just saving waste in the landfill, quite honestly. Our power adapter, which is usually located at the bottom of the box, I've never seen them just pack it side by side like that. And it's a standard barrel power connector. And this power adapter says, hold on a second, I'm gonna have to get some different glasses to read this. I wanna see the wattage and the voltage. And this says it is 19 volts, 6.32 amps, which is how many watts? It looks like we're going to have to do the math on our own. Voltage times amperage. It's probably going to put this at 120 watts would be my guess. And that's your standard barrel connector. And then we'll go back over to the box here. Put these glasses away. Also in the box, we've got some plastic bags here. What are these? We've got some screws for something. Oh, we've got a VESA mounting bracket, which is not in a bag, which is strange. And then we've got the screws for the VESA mounting bracket. So is there no underneath on this one? Is that why they, yeah, that's exactly why they did that. Instead of putting the information, or sorry, the accessories underneath the mini PC, they just put it beside, and so this box is a little longer instead of deeper. And then you've got this little single folded piece of paper here. I guess that's supposed to represent a manual, but there really isn't much information on here at all. Just how to plug it in and how the VESA mount works, and you know, how to install RAM and storage. Pretty weak on documentation, but that's okay. And then the rest of that's empty. So let me get this out of the way. We'll just move this stuff back in here, and then I'll put this little piece back on like so. And so I don't trip over it later, I'll just kind of close it up. There we go. All right. Now we're getting to the good stuff. We have some rubber feet, and I don't see any screws down here, so that might mean, at first glance anyway, that screws are hidden underneath these rubber feet, which sucks because they don't give you any spare rubber feet, and I don't see any other screws on this. We've got dual LAN, we've got HDMI, we've got DisplayPort, we've got USB Type A 3.0 and USB Type A 2.0. And then we've got, what does this one say? We've got a USB Type C. I'd have to look back at the specs, see if that's USB 3 or 4, but that I believe supports DisplayPort out, so you can have 3 monitors running at the same time. 2 more USB Type A 3 well, USB 3, I'm not sure which version. We've got a headphone jack or a headset jack, and then your power button. And then there's a recess hole here for resetting the BIOS, which you'll only have to do if you get in and monkey with the BIOS. If you don't get in and monkey with the BIOS, you'll never, ever, for the life of this computer, have to press that button right there, that recessed reset hole. You bring that on yourself, all right? That is only used with very few exceptions. The only time a user needs to do that is if a user started monkeying around in the BIOS. Just so you know, you got only yourself to blame if you have to do that. Now, with that, it's all plastic. It's got a nice weight to it. It seems a little bit taller and a little bit longer than most mini PCs, but not by much. And we'll see who makes the network interface card for these 2 network controllers, and also who makes the wireless network interface cards, so you know where to get drivers. Now, because this comes with storage and RAM already in it, we should be able to just plug it in and boot it up. Let's verify. It is a little worrisome when I receive a product that looks like it might have been used before. Like the way this is wrapped up is, looks like it's already been unwrapped and rewrapped, because there's a bend here where it used to be originally folded, and it's not a big deal. It's just you know, probably a violation of FTC standards to sell something that was returned and not at least disclose it. They don't have to discount it, but they need to disclose it. That's why Packard Bell went out of business in the United States. Google it. But I don't care. I mean, it works or it doesn't. And you have a 30-day return policy on Amazon where it won't cost you anything to return it, and you'll get a full refund. So apart from just the number of bends in this cable, the other downside is how short this cable is. That really bothers me. But on the other hand, the cheaper the computer is when it's new, then that money savings had to come from somewhere. I much prefer a separate power pack that plugs in with a power cable from the wall separately. So that way we have, let's say this was the power pack, and instead of this little plug right here, we had just a plug-in for a laptop power cord. That would buy us another 6 feet of cable. This can also block other outlets near it, above it or below it, depending on how you plug it in. So, you know, these are cheaper to make, and if they're cheaper to make, then they're cheaper to sell. And that's why people, the average consumers, don't buy what's best. Historically, consumers in the United States and generally worldwide want the best, but when they go and buy, they come out with the cheapest thing. So there's what we want and there's what we can have. There's what we say and then there's what we do. So a lot of times we see a lot of dismissal of cheap components or cheaper budget computers from snobs and elitists. But if you get to know many of them personally, you'll find out they don't have the things that they claim are better. They're just living in a world of fantasy, basically, where they can be snobs, but at the same time, privately, they're using something very similar. And maybe they don't like it. Maybe they really wish they did have that thing they were being, you know, saying is better, but they can't afford it. Whatever the excuses are, over and over and over again online, I want you to be aware that there's a lot of people talking a lot of nonsense that isn't verifiable. So not everybody, but I would say on social media, the vast amount of people doing the most amount of talking have no way to back up what they're saying and can't prove it. So what we can look at are sales numbers, and sales numbers don't lie. And we know for a fact that if we sell a $1,000 computer or a $300 computer, we will well outsell the $1,000 computer multiple times over. Even though the $1,000 computer is the more desirable one, when people go to spend their actual hard-earned money, most people will buy the $300 computer, and most people don't have a choice. It's just like, I need money for other things besides a computer. I need to eat later. I need to pay rent. I need to pay my electric bill. And well, it would be great to have that $1,000 or that $3,000 computer. I can't afford it, and it would be an irresponsible purchase. But boy, would that sure be nice. And they're thinking that when they're checking out, buying the cheaper computer, and that's what they end up using for the next 6 or 8 years. So if I were you, well, I'll tell you what. Let me tell you what I do. When I see people complain that something isn't good enough, what I'm really reading is somebody actually has that unit and they're upset that they can't afford a better unit because they're biting off more than they can chew. They are saying, you know, that McDonald's hamburger is so much worse than filet mignon while they're eating a McDonald's hamburger. So unless proven otherwise, when I see those comments, I automatically translate that to a hypocrite. That somebody who actually does have the filet mignon doesn't go on social media to complain about a cheaper computer. It's not a concern of theirs. So generally, in my experience, they go hand in hand. What I'm trying to tell you is it's what they're not telling you. And since they're not telling you, it's up to your imagination to fill in the gap. And the way I fill in the gap is the reason why they left that information out is if they told you the truth, you would dismiss them. So I dismissed them. Their opinions are ridiculous, and it's just that they want to be included in a conversation or feel important. Okay, I mean, they're allowed to do it, but we're also allowed to interpret it until proven otherwise is just childish nonsense. The bottom line is if the computers that were $300 were so bad, people wouldn't be using them. That's the truth. So if you look at like the best-selling mini PCs on Amazon, they will be the cheapest mini PCs on Amazon. You could go back 10 years and go forward 20 years. It'll always be the same because that's the way people are. Generally speaking, there's always exceptions, but they make up a smaller percentage of consumer, you know, that are actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk, but putting their money where their mouth is. Let's get this plugged in and turned on and see what it looks like. So let's get that plugged in. If I can find some room on my... See, this is a problem here. There we go. And look how much cable I have left. That's going to pull this right off the table. I'll just try and be careful. Let's grab a keyboard and a mouse, and we'll plug that into the black USB port back here. That's USB 2. Why waste a high-speed port on a keyboard or a mouse. Getting a piano that can play faster, is there such a thing? Doesn't mean that I can play faster just because the piano can. When I owned the Mini Cooper, it could take really high-speed turns and just stay planted on the ground without worrying about flipping the car over. And I thought I'd have fun with it and test the limits. I couldn't even get close to the limits before I needed to basically either stop the car or start to throw up, because I was pushing myself past my limits and it was making me sick. The car didn't even feel like it was challenged at all. Most of the limitations people talk about with computers are their own personal limitations, that they want something more to make up for where they lack. The truth of the matter is, if you're very skilled at what you do, like if you're a cook, it doesn't matter what pots and pans you use. If you're a photographer, it doesn't matter what camera you use. Talent will always be far superior than trying to hide your lack of talent by spending more money. It's pretty obvious. You know, people buy these really expensive exotic cars and they have no idea how to drive. So just go on YouTube and look for these exotic car crashes and look how stupid these people are. The bad decision and bad decision making and their total incompetence. But that didn't stop them from, you know, inheriting millions of dollars and being a fool with it. That's their freedom and that's their choice. But I wouldn't envy that. I would rather have my own talent than to have to go and buy talent. That's just me. I was just raised to be proud and to be capable and to not think that you need to have some special assistance by spending money to improve your abilities as a person. Improving your abilities as a person is completely free, but it does require practice, regular ongoing practice. And if you're not willing to put the work in and you think you're just going to pay the money, it'd be like paying the money to take a pill so you don't have to go to the gym to get muscles. There's only one way to get muscles. Well, I suppose these days you could probably do plastic surgery and have implants, which wouldn't really be muscles. You can tell. You can tell from the personality of the person if they put the work in or they didn't. It's integrated right into who they are. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of being able to see what's true from what they want you to see, which isn't always the truth. That's the beauty of the internet, is being able to hide behind a keyboard. So by putting myself out on YouTube, live, unscripted, and unrehearsed, you know everything you're seeing is genuine and real. And when I encounter a real problem on a real live video, you'll watch me diagnose and repair it every single time. And while tools can help me in that, I can do it without the tools if I have to. In most cases, I can find some way to work my way around it. It's just a harder way to work. So with the right tools, the right experience and know-how, one doesn't replace the other. They work hand in hand together, or they're supposed to anyway. All right, so keyboard, power, and HDMI cable. Yeah, so what happens is people read stuff online and they think they know now. Like that explains everything and they don't need any experience. They think they know all about computers and operating systems and registries and cleaners, and because they read some stuff online or they watched some people on YouTube. There's nothing you can watch from me that replaces your own experience. I hope it incentivizes you. I hope it's an incentive or a motivation for you, an inspiration for you to go and get that experience. But if you don't have the experience other than what you read and see online, then you don't really know what you're talking about. You have a kind of a headline, but you don't have the details of the article. And some things have to be felt. And it's very difficult to explain that to other people. Like trying to explain what love is something you feel. And it's very hard to explain it, especially because there's different kinds of love. And in much the same way, when you learn the nuances of a particular skill, be it cooking or playing the piano or working on computers, you can only acquire that in 2026 through putting in the work. If you're not willing to put in the work, then don't call yourself an expert, because you're what do we call that? A poser, which is also completely legal. And you as the viewer have to separate the posers from the genuine articles. So that's why I do these videos live, so I can't be edited, they can't be manipulated in any way, shape, or form. What you see is what you get. It's real and it's happening now. And we emphasize that by encouraging people to interact with us in the chat room, so people can, if they're new here, verify everything I'm telling you is 100% true. And if that motivates you to have your own experience and you follow what I show, the same exact thing will happen to you if you do the exact thing I show. For better or for worse, the result I get, if you do everything I do with the same equipment, will be the same result you get without exception 100% of the time. The only time you'll get a different result is if you're doing something I didn't do, or using a piece of equipment in a way I didn't use it, or it's not the same piece of equipment. You can't say that for most YouTube channels. They hide so much just to get you attracted to the content and to make something seem better than it really is. It's basically a lot of David Copperfields out there presenting an image they want you to see. I can't control what happens in this video, right? It's live. I can't manipulate what I want you to see. Other YouTube channels do exactly that and are often getting paid without your knowledge to present that a specific way. I wish I was, quite frankly, but that's not how we do things. Let me get the HDMI cable plugged in. We've got our keyboard and mouse. I did turn these on, right? And let's just turn it on and see. Oh, well, that explains why I didn't see any screws. It doesn't help when you don't have a proper manual to explain this. But we've got a small fan here, and then there's little tabs, I guess, that this hooks into on the sides. How did I do that? Does it just go straight down? Yeah, there's no like arrow or anything on the plastic indicating that that opens like that. So it looks like if we want to get in there, and traditionally the CPU is on the bottom, and we've got this fan and what appears to be, I guess, a heat sink here, and it looks like you just bend these tabs, maybe? Really? Is it that easy? I was going to turn this on, but now I didn't realize it would be that easy. Now I'm curious, does that just pop open, or do you have to take out some screws? Oh my gosh, would you look at that? That is clever. So it's a toolless opening, except I needed a flat blade to push both of these tabs back. We still have film on the other thermal pad. You've got one stick of DDR5 right there, right? It said DDR5, didn't it? Let me just, while I've got this open, let me check and see who's making everything here. That was a surprise and a pleasant one. I'm happy to see it. The RAM 16 gigs, DDR5 5600, and the storage is made by a company called UD Store. So just some white label. Says it's an M.2 NVMe SSD PCIe Gen 4x4. And then you've got space for another, and then the Wi-Fi card is underneath, and the Wi-Fi card is removable and replaceable. It is not, nothing is soldered on. That shouldn't be. And then you've got this little cable for your fan, so when you open this, be very careful that you don't break that cable. It's very thin, and you can rip it very easily, and then you're going to have a bad time. All right, so how does this go back in? I guess this way. It's kind of cut in a certain way that it only goes in one way, I think. And then we just push that down, I think. There it goes. And then the little cover goes back on. Wow. Hey, I kind of like it. I mean, it would be bad if my customer were to pick this up. It just pulls off real easy. But it doesn't expose the components, right? So they're not going to get in any danger by opening it by mistake. And you can see the ventilation for the fan right there, that little square. I like it. Let's see if it works as good as it's hardware engineered, because that's pretty handy. Especially if you're one of those end users that likes to open your computer up all the time. That's right up your alley. Most end users never open their computer up in the entire life of the computer. And other users can't leave it alone. So if you're one of those people that can't leave it alone, you gotta like that. Because you can open that to your heart's content, and you're not gonna wear anything out like the adhesion on the rubber feet or the heads of a screw that you could cam out. So where was I? I was gonna turn this on. Remember, we don't plug into the internet on our first boot up. We wanna go through Windows setup without internet access. Hit the power button, and a little light comes on, which I'm sure my lighting is probably preventing you from seeing. And let's jump over to the streaming computer and see what our video output looks like, because we want to see the power on self-test and logo screen. And hopefully we're going to see that here in a minute, where it says Elgato. That's our capture card. And it could take a minute on the first boot up here. There it goes. There's the ADREAMER logo. There's the Windows 11 toilet bowl flushing. And then we'll get to the out-of-box experience, I hope. I don't want it to go to the desktop. I want it to ask me some questions first. Some of the lower-end mini PCs are violating Microsoft terms and service by having Windows boot to the desktop. And if it does that, I'd say let's reinstall Windows from scratch. But from the looks of things, this one is done properly. And it wants us to go through our out-of-box experience. And again, we're going to do that without any internet access. So English United States is my region. Where's my mouse? There it is. So yes, my region is United States. My keyboard is a United States layout of the keys, and I don't want a secondary language keyboard layout. Wi-Fi is already loaded up, looking for connection to the internet, and you'll notice that we don't have any option to skip this. Normally down here would say, I don't have internet. But this looks like a bone stock install of Windows 11, which is good. That means they didn't modify it, which is bad, which means they did modify it. So what is it? Shift F10 opens up the dialog box, and then we have to, gosh darn it, let me go back, Control Tab, and then click on the box. Why is this happening? Where's my mouse? Down here, okay. Now I'll click on it, and then I can type in, let's see, OOBE/bypass NRO. That's going to cause the machine to restart, and we're going to go through the same questions again. Only when we get to the next, when we get to that connect to the internet screen, we will have just added the option to skip that. You don't have to do this if you have a Microsoft account, but this is not my computer in the sense that I will be either selling this. Well, I will be selling it at some point, so I don't want to put my name on it or my preferences. I have preferences for customers that I use, and I'm not going to sign into it with my Microsoft account because one, I don't have one, and two, if I did, that would be like me using a toothbrush and then selling you the toothbrush. It's just disrespectful. So we leave it as clean as possible, and if the user wants to sign into a Microsoft account, that's easy to add after the fact, but they're not required to, and the computer is otherwise ready for the end user to plug and play. So we're going to go back through the out-of-box experience once more, and I'll click the same answers as I did before. Now down here it says I don't have internet. It didn't say that before. Click on that, and then you've got to basically tell Windows twice. So continue with limited setup is asking you for internet again. Accept the license agreement. And then it wants a username. So for right now, we'll just use the username of user with a blank password. There's nothing to protect on here. And we'll leave location settings on. That'll keep our date and time updated for us, including during daylight saving time or the loss or gain of minutes that naturally occur And you never have to put a date and time in on a modern computer unless you just refuse to live in 2026. If you want to stay in 1998, you can stay there, but we've left. So you'll be alone. Let the computer take care of things for you is what I'm suggesting. Once we've accepted those the license agreement and the privacy options that I've selected, those are my preferences, choose yours, however you want. Then it just starts to configure the system for use case scenarios that are addressed based on how you answered those questions. Specifically, if you're in another country, let's say you've got GDPR, general data protection laws and things like that, then the way the computer configures for you in Europe is different for how it configures for me in America, and et cetera, for all the other countries and rules they have. So Microsoft is not violating any country's laws. So this will take a minute, as it always does, and you will always do this with Windows when you install it. Whether you built your own computer or bought a laptop, this is the same process. It doesn't change simply because of the way the computer looks. So you will go through this properly, regardless if you've installed it or built it yourself or it came pre-installed. If it does not do this, if you bought a new computer and it goes right to the desktop, then it looks like you bought a used computer or the company themselves isn't following Microsoft's recommendations on, and they may not be working with Microsoft, because Microsoft, if you violate their terms, will say we're not going to work with you anymore. It's not like Microsoft is the law. But Microsoft can say, look, we're just not going to work with you. But if they never worked with you to begin with, then you can do whatever you want without repercussion. With that said, here's our desktop, and let's take a look. I guess right now you see the little globe down here. That's telling us we're ready for our internet. So let me grab an internet cable, or rather an Ethernet cable, and we'll plug it into either of the two network jacks in the back here. Give that a second. And it should start to flash down here in this bottom right corner. For some reason, it is not doing that. That's a concern. That would imply the driver is missing. Let me try the other network interface. Plug this. Let's try the other one. They probably both use the same driver, and it looks like the driver is missing. That's a first. That's why we do this live and unscripted, right? I could have edited this out if I was a regular YouTube content creator, as most would. We'll just pretend like it didn't happen. We don't do that here. Oh, it did load. Maybe I was being impatient. It did load. Let me unplug it one more time. Let me go back to the original plug I was in and see if I was just being impatient. I'm used to that happening much faster. While we're sitting waiting, let me take a look in the device manager just to see if there's a problem, because that does seem awfully slow. So the device manager says all of our drivers are loaded and happy. Yeah, that just took a while, didn't it? And I also didn't get the blinking cable. So I wonder if this is an old version, like pre. That started with 25H2. So I bet you this is 24H2, just based on that. So when you're trained and you have experience, you can identify even versions of Windows if you're that skilled or that much experience. Let's see if I'm right. Right-click on the Start button and go to System, and let's see what version of Windows we've got here. Wow, look how old that is. I called it, didn't I? That's experience. There's not a manual in the world that replaces the experience. The experience is what writes the manuals. So this is very, very old. Windows 22 H2 came out in 2022. So we're missing 22H3. 22H4, and right now in 2025, you want to guess? So this is going to need a ton of updates. However, we could just reinstall Windows. That would be faster to just download and create our own media installation tool using Microsoft's own media creation tool for free, fully legal. Wipe this computer out, reinstall Windows from scratch, but we're going to have to put the drivers on it. Where are we going to get the drivers from? Well, right now we can back up the drivers that are on it. Put those on a flash drive and cheat, if you will. But maybe those drivers are also 3 years old, and you really would be shooting yourself in the foot by trying to take the lazy way out. Which, look, if time is money and you just need the machine up and running again, as long as the drivers work, who cares? But if you want the best performance possible, the best reliability, the best security, and it's a brand new computer, I would put brand new software on it. This software is not new, it's 3 years old. Maybe that's why the price is so attractive. So when we look at this, we've got the AMD Ryzen 7 7840HS, and it does say the proper graphics card here. So that verifies the Amazon website description from the manufacturer is completely wrong. You'd think a manufacturer would know their own product. And it's one thing when it's a company you never heard of before. But the big manufacturer of Beelink has fallen so far from grace that even they don't know what they're selling anymore. Their own support teams are wrong. Currently, and for the last minimal 6 months, they have been not knowing what their own products are. And when you're looking up at a brand that used to be so well respected, to see them fall so far from their own standards is sad. With ADREAMER, it's not as sad. It's more expected on this level. And to see Beelink falling to this level and watch ADREAMER, for example, rise, continue to work harder, while Beelink's working worse, they could change places in the near future, where Beelink becomes like right now, as far as I'm concerned, they're the cheap brand to avoid because of how bad their support is and how lacking it is. And it floors me because it used to be industry leading. So what happened? But hey, we're not here to beat up on them. We're just here to look at ADREAMER and see if it's worth consideration for purchase. There's our 16 gigs of RAM. It is Windows 11 Home. I want you to pay attention to that. Is it activated? Let's see, activation. Settings. Windows reported hardware has changed and the activation state is not active. Isn't that interesting? Well, the good news is, first of all, if we go to Windows Update, let me try this first. Let's go to Windows Update because the activation will occur during a Windows Update. I really don't want to update this. I just want to wipe it and reinstall 25H2 because it'll be faster. But let's go to Windows Update right here, and then we'll hit, oh, it's already downloading in the background. That first round of updates, when we reboot, if it stays inactive, then we might as well throw Pro on it, quite frankly. I mean, if we're going to buy Windows anyway, why use Home? But the reason I'm paying attention to that is because if it is active under a license for Home, then I have to put Windows 11 Home 25H2 for that activation to not have to be repurchased. If I put Windows 11 Pro on it, I'd have to purchase an activation key, and I would go to VIP-URCDKEYs for that. Some mini PC manufacturers say if you email them, they'll send you the key for free. I don't know if that's the case for ADREAMER. But other companies like Nemo, Minis Forum, I think GMK Tech will all do that for you. But you have to reach out, and then you have to wait for a response. So if you want to get it done today, you're going to have to do it on your own. So by doing this first round of updates and then rebooting, I just want to see if it goes active. If it stays inactive, I'm going to put Windows 11 Pro on it. If it, on the other hand, on the reboot says it's active now, then I'll keep Windows 11 Home on it because, quite frankly, end users can't tell the difference. They're swayed by false information from previous Windows versions, like back in the day when Windows 7 or XP Home versus Pro had more features and would allow for more RAM. That's not the case anymore. And Pro is really only beneficial, for the most part, for people who are professionals working in an industry where the industry requires it or the office requires it. If you're working from home and you're just a home user, you can waste your money on it if you want to. I throw Pro on there only because it's only about $2 difference, and I don't have to worry about the customer needing Windows Pro and needing an upgrade, and that's a support call. And a lot of time, when that does happen, the customers don't actually need it. They just want it. They do believe in I guess, the Loch Ness Monster, and they believe in luck, and they're superstitious, and they feel they're missing out on something. And when I ask the customers what Windows 11 Pro, just out of curiosity, why do you want Windows 11 Pro? What is it going to, where is your Windows 11 home falling short for you? What is it you're not able to do? Never, ever, not one time has a customer been able to answer that question. Well, I just thought Pro was better. Well, it is better if you need it. So that's what I'm trying to ask you. Do you need it? Aren't I a terrible salesman? How the hell am I still in business? I should be saying, how many do you want? 6, 10, 12? I should be making that sale. It doesn't matter why. But I don't want to see people waste their money. It's my mother's fault. This is how she raised me, to be honest. Don't treat people the way you yourself would not be treated. And let you earn your money honestly, and let referrals do their work when people start recommending you to their friends for saving them from spending money they didn't have to spend. Usually, though, the customers are so thick-skulled that once they've got their mind made up, they don't care if it makes any difference. In most cases, when I ask the customer where is Windows 11 Home falling short for you? What are you not able to do? They can't answer it. And most of the time when I explain there will be no difference, but you will be spending money and have to endure a couple hours of work. Do you still want to do it? Most of the time they say yes. That's how powerful manipulating the PR companies are. That even when a professional certified technician advises you that it's a waste of money, people want to waste their money. Okay, I'm not your financial advisor. So if you want to waste your money and you understand fully what to expect, then I don't expect you to complain to me afterwards that it's not making any difference. And nobody ever has. I followed up and said, do you notice any difference? They say no. I say, well, do you understand what I was talking about? They say yes. Okay, we're all on the same page. You're happy, I'm happy. I just want to make sure you're fully informed, and that, you know, if you continue to want Windows 11 Pro in the future despite not needing it, we don't have to have this discussion again, and I can get right to work and send you the invoice. I don't care. I really honestly don't care. It just kills me to see people spend money on superstitions. But this is the general public, and it is my job to provide my customers with what they want. I'm just trying to figure out why they want it, because oftentimes what customers ask me for isn't the right thing they need. Sometimes a customer will say, how can I do this or that? And I've learned the hard way that by answering their questions, it doesn't always solve their problems. In most cases, it doesn't come close to solving their problems. So I have to say to them, what is it you're trying to do? Oh, I'm trying to get my printer to print in color. Okay, so let's forget everything you've set up into this point, because none of it has anything to do with that. And let me get your printer fixed for you. Let me do the diagnostic. Let me determine what you need to be prescribed, if you will, for the solution you want. That's what I get paid to do. You don't need to tell me what to do. If you already can tell me what to do, then you can do it yourself and save us both the frustration. And, you know, it's a great way to learn. You can spend more money and more time until you figure it out, and then you'll know. Or you can listen to me, we'll get it done, and get it done cheaper, faster, and get on with your work. And it's frustrating for me to have such skill and have people want to hire me, but then don't want my skill. They want to tell me. I go, look, you can go hire a kid on Craigslist that's out of high school or still in high school and tell them what to do. But I take accountability, and I have to stand behind the work I do. And if you're telling me to do work that I don't want to stand behind and I don't want a warranty, I'm not going to do it, because I'm not going to damage my company's reputation because you want to tell me how to do my job. That's just not going to work. Most doctors, you know, they're not going to prescribe to you what you think you want, what you think you need for medication. Good luck. Doctor could lose their license. So it's just common courtesy, common respect. If that's not what you wanted, why did you go there? You know what I mean? You go to your internet pharmacy online and get what you think you need, and then when you wind up in the hospital later, you can explain that to the doctor and why you're there. That being said, maybe you don't wind up in the hospital. Either way, it's got nothing to do with the doctor, and in such a circumstance, it's got nothing to do with me, with what people choose to do with their computers or the money they choose to spend. But I do try to protect people, but sometimes they don't want that protection. And then in that case, I'll just do the job, but I need to make it clear that I don't want the customer complaining to me afterwards. I'm going to make it clear what the result's going to be. And if they still want to go forward with it, no problem. So long as it's not going to damage my reputation or upset you because you feel as though you were ripped off, you're the one, that you were told the information, you said you're okay with it, and that always works out well for me because I've never had a customer complain after what I told them was going to happen happened. They know exactly why, they know it's not my fault, and we move forward. And if everything's fine and there's no problems, we still move forward. So either way, I'm protected as a business that my customer will be happy. I always ask these questions before I engage in any work. I've learned that the hard way. Get those customers' expectations in line or don't do the work. That has to come first in my line of work. I won't do it any other way. Most businesses just want your money and they don't give a rat's behind if you like it or not. And there's no refunds. A lot of businesses, once you give them your money, they won't give it back. And then you're going to have to fight with either the banks or the Better Business Bureau. And most of the time, people lose those fights or they leave negative reviews. I don't have that problem because that's not how I engage in work. And I wish more businesses ran the way mine did. But I imagine there'd be a lot of businesses out of business because the only way they earn money is by burning people. They just have to keep finding new people to burn. That is a very popular business model. So while this is running, I'm just kind of curious if it activated in the background, because it could have happened even by now. Let's take another look. Actually, I can just type in the word activation down here. Activation, settings. Nope. Windows has reported the hardware of your device has changed. So that means there was a code, or there is a code in here. So it may just need to go ahead and do the updates and it may activate. And I just want to know that before I reinstall. Now, with regards to drivers, this is a good time to take note of what drivers we're going to need. Let me move that over here for a second. Let's right-click on the Start button and go to the Device Manager. What I'm particularly interested in is the make and model of the network interface adapters, both wired and wireless. That's right here. We've got an Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX200 Wi-Fi adapter, and the two LAN jacks on the back are 2.5 gigs each, and they're both the same Realtek Gaming 2.5 gig Ethernet family controller. So if we do, when we reinstall Windows, if there is no driver download on ADREAMER's website for this model, we probably won't need it because we can download the AMD Adrenalin and chipset tool to put the chipset and graphics drivers on. And then if need be, if the Wi-Fi card and the Realtek LAN adapter are not auto-detected in Windows Update after a new install, then we can go to Intel's website and download the Wi-Fi 6 driver, and we can go to Realtek's website and download the 2.5 gig driver if we need to. So I don't think there's anything we need from ADREAMER anyway, because if ADREAMER provides them, they're probably going to be 4 years old, just like this operating system. Well, 3 years old, which means you're getting the right drivers, but they're out of date. Drivers that worked in 22H2 may not work well or at all in 25H2. But if you want to be secured, you want the best performance, and you want the best reliability, so your system isn't crashing randomly, having those latest drivers, especially on a new install, is critical. You wouldn't want to buy a brand new car and put gasoline you've had in a gas can in the garage for 4 years and dump it into your gas tank, because it's probably stale gas and your brand new car is going to run like crap. Why would you do that to yourself? So that's the logic that I'm using going forward. And then under display adapters, you'll obviously see the Radeon 780M graphics, which will be provided to us via the AMD Adrenalin driver, which we would be installing regardless of driver availability on the manufacturer's website, because the AMD Adrenalin drivers are updated about every 6 weeks, and manufacturers generally, in general, do not update the drivers on their website ever unless there's a critical security flaw or critical compatibility issue with some Windows update or new version of Windows. Barring that, the manufacturer says you're on your own. This would be no different than if you built it yourself. Again, look at the price. So, you know, the fact that we're getting so much for so little is a bargain, but there are going to be some strings attached, and that's typical. It's normal in this industry. They're not doing anything unusual. Let me right click on the desktop and let me change this resolution to 1080 because I think we're in 4K. Yeah, we are. Let's drop that down 1080. And changes. Oops, that far back. Let's go back over to Windows 8. It's still running in the background. Nothing I did interrupted it. It just other windows appeared on top. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to finish, let's take a look in our chat room here and see what you guys have to say. Let me put camera 1 somewhere on the screen. Let's just go up here. Corbin Colossus said he once had the error come up where it said your hardware has changed and he lost activation. He said Microsoft Tech Support gave me a new code. How exactly did you contact Microsoft Tech Support? Generally speaking, you would contact the manufacturer, unless you built your own computer and you bought your license code yourself. There have been it has been known that some BIOS updates can trigger that error, and I think there was a Windows update that was causing it. So it may not be anything that you did, but if the machine comes from the manufacturer without activation, I don't know that Microsoft will pay for the manufacturer's mistake by providing you a free code. You could try. I just don't even know how you'd reach Microsoft Tech Support. I'm not aware of any support number, but good to know. You know, it could be something to explore. Thankfully, the keys are very inexpensive and reliable from our friends at VIP-URCDKEY, so I could care less one way or the other, but you might feel differently about it, and that's why I want to just double check that and make sure that it doesn't auto-activate after these updates and a reboot. If it does not auto-activate after that, then we have a bad key. And at that point, you could reach out to the manufacturer, which would be the normal first step. Reach out to who makes the PC. Reach out to their support. Unless you bought the product from Microsoft, I wouldn't reach out to Microsoft. But I don't know your situation there. Corbin Colossus said, this was the only time I've ever called Microsoft's phone number. I built my machine and purchased Windows. I was surprised I got through to them. This was 10 years ago. Well, I'm pretty sure Microsoft doesn't have any call-in support anymore. And the danger with you mentioning that, you know, not including that little bit that it was 10 years ago, any viewer watching that might think that what you did 10 years ago would work. It isn't going to work today. The problem is, I mean, unless somebody knows something I don't, if you Google for Microsoft Tech Support number, you're going to find a lot of numbers that claim to be Microsoft Tech Support that are scammers in India or another country trying to rip you off. So I don't recommend you even try. But 10 years ago was a different story. Even phone activation, Microsoft has removed all phone activation is no longer possible. So things have changed. Things have changed, folks. So sometimes when you're hearing from people online, they're sharing stories from, like if I said, hey, I got this really great deal on a Kit Kat bar, it was 25 cents. Where did you get it? Oh, I just got it at the local market. And it was only 25 cents? Well, yeah, it was 1982, but okay. The 1982 part should have come first. Or you're misleading people. So please think about what you're saying and the influence you have over others and take responsibility for it, okay? So, well, it's very interesting how things used to be. let's talk about the way things are. You're not watching a video from 10 years ago today. You're watching this live. So let's talk about what's happening today. Or recently, at least recently, for the love of all that's holy. As if this stuff wasn't technically confusing enough. Doing that is such, you may not realize it, but you're creating so much more confusion, and we have enough as it is. But yeah, if you want to share those stories, please include at the beginning of your story that we're talking about, you know, a decade ago or whenever it was, that it's not recent, so that people understand the context and that it won't be an option for them now. All right. Andy says, I hope Windows is activated. Otherwise, you have to add $25 to the price. That's true. Or you put Linux on it. But we'll give this a chance here. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, did that all install? It looks like it's about ready here. Take a look. Install all. There we go. So for whatever reason, it was just downloading. Now it's installing. And we'll know here in a minute. While we're waiting, by the way, I can go ahead and get out my Windows 11 installation media, which is right here. I just made this, was it last week? Because the updates came out on Tuesday, and all those updates are now included and slipstreamed into the new media. But you have to download the new media creation tool and remake it from scratch. So that when we're done, we'll not only have the latest Windows 11 25H2, but we'll have all the updates all the way through this updates, May's updates that came out on the second Tuesday of the month. They're already baked in. So any remaining updates are all we have to grab. Not like this. This is missing 3 years worth of updates. This will be missing, I don't know, a week's worth of updates, which will basically be just antivirus, you know, security updates. So we won't be spending hours and hours on this waiting on updates. Microsoft is updating the media creation tool. In my experience, it's been, if the updates come out on the second Tuesday of the month, then the media creation tool is being updated by the second Thursday of the month. Or at the latest, the second Friday. They haven't really confirmed or promised anything, but that's what it's been the last few months, has been the following Thursday that follows that Tuesday. And then you can immediately embed those updates into your installer, and you don't have to manually install them anymore. Thank goodness. Let me see what else I'm missing in the chat room here, because I was just looking at the most recent messages. Let me scroll up a bit. Hey, there's Mortant joining us, says hello. Edward Bass joins us and says hello. Frankie B joins us and says hello. Joseph RR 1972 suggests this is refurbished. I didn't see any indication that this is refurbished. So if you want to use your imagination and not verify anything you're telling me, then you should be ending anything you say with a question mark. That's a very big difference between asking it's refurbished and boldly lying based on your imagination and making it out as though it were a fact. That's a very disingenuous and disrespectful, discourteous thing to do to a community, is for you to not very clearly state if you're making an assumption or if you have evidence. If you don't make the assumption and you don't have the evidence, it's fair to ask, because we don't know. So unless you know something I don't, then what you're doing is you're providing false information in our chat room. And I'm a pretty rough stickler when it comes to false information, and this is how it happens online, is people speak their mouth without any verification. You as the viewer need to verify. If you want to choose to believe people that make statements and provide no evidence, you're making a bad decision on the internet today. Everybody wants to tout their opinions as though they're facts when they have nothing to back them up with. So again, if you have any evidence to back that up, please provide it. Otherwise, ask, is this refurbished? Because if you had asked, I'd say, I don't know. It's not supposed to be. But who cares? By the way, the warranty takes place based on the receipt the date of the receipt. And if the machine works and it looks good, what difference does it make? Except the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, says that's a violation of the law. But that's not my job. My job is, let's evaluate the product and do we like it? I don't see any evidence that this is refurbished, but I do see some packing here that suggests it's not packed in a way I was expecting it. I've never worked with this company before, so is that normal, the way they do things? How would I know? I don't see fingerprints on it. I don't see evidence that anybody ever used it before. We can look at the hours on the NVMe drive and see how many times it's been turned on. And, you know, if we're seeing dozens of times this has been powered on and lots of data has been written to it, it's definitely at least a refurbished NVMe drive, if that's the case. But you need to build evidence before you make statements. Otherwise, you're just a liar. I'm just telling you, flat out, you're just a liar. So if you don't want to be a liar, if that hurts your feelings or offends you, stop lying by suggesting your imagination and conclusions can be backed up. And if you can't back them up with proof, then you're a liar. Okay, so it's really simple as that. You might mean well, but yeah. What's interesting, why does it say pending? Oh, I see, it's still installing this big update down here. My screen's really small and hard for me to see, so I didn't notice that at first. And out of curiosity, while we're waiting and just for something to do, I mean, it could activate theoretically at any time. It won't tell us that it's done it. So activation settings here, yeah, nothing's changed. Okay. I just wanted to confirm that. Of course, now I can't see my back button. I suppose I could have just gone down here and clicked Windows Update. Ah, well, you know. It gets us there. Let me also check the power settings because I don't want the computer going to sleep on us while we're live. So let's go here. Edit. Power plan. Yeah, I don't want that to do that. All together. Save those. Whoops, I didn't change what the power buttons do. Turn off. There's no sleep button. And save changes. Okay, let's go back to our power settings and want to make sure the computer doesn't go to sleep ever because it doesn't have batteries. There's no reason for a computer without batteries to ever go to sleep. That's just absurd. Okay, so while that continues to install, I'm not going to make too many customizations to this Windows because we're just going to wipe it and reinstall it. And as long as it doesn't reactivate upon reboot, then that tells me to go ahead and I got a green light. If I'm going to buy a license anyway for it, I'll put Windows 11 Pro on. Also, Andy mentions if it doesn't activate, it's $25 for a license. Well, he is right. He's also potentially wrong. Because what Andy doesn't know is if you reach out to ADREAMER, like if we reach out to their support and say, look, I just got this computer on Amazon and it's saying the hardware has changed and it won't activate, they might just send you a key. And yeah, you might have to wait a day or two for a response. But I would not assume you have to buy the key unless you're intolerant, impatient, and for some reason you need to activate right away. You know, activating Windows is optional. You can use Windows without any restrictions, without an activation key forever. It just won't let you personalize your wallpaper and your fonts. All the personalization stuff is a feature that's unlocked when you pay for activation. But as far as using Windows, loading your programs, printing, you can use Windows forever and never activate it. You can run this computer its whole life without activating Windows, unless you care about changing your wallpaper, little personalization settings. If that's worth 25 bucks to you, and if you don't have the patience to wait for tech support to respond to you, then yes, in those circumstances, what Andy said is true. But first thing I would do is I would reach out, you know, assuming this doesn't activate, let's just say, I would reach out to the folks at ADREAMER. Most companies, when asked, will gladly provide you the key or a key. But if you can't be bothered to ask, that'll cost you 25 bucks. All right, so there are conditions, if met, that Andy is right, and there are other conditions that Andy didn't mention where Andy's statement is completely false. Depending on how you choose to react is ultimately the path that will be available to you. But it's not just one path. It is not the way it is represented here. Now, if you ask ADREAMER for a key and you don't get a response or they say no, that's a different story, okay? But we need the experience first before we can assert a conclusion. That's all. Pretty simple. People want to take shortcuts and they want to assume they have all the answers. And because this is a new product and a new company to us, it's safe to assume the worst, to be prepared, but hope for the best and give them a chance, for crying out loud. And that's why I'm doing these updates right now. Even though I plan on completely wiping this operating system, I want to know if I want to put Windows 11 Home back on it to preserve a license key, or if there is no license key to preserve, if it's been burned, then put Windows 11 Pro on it, because it's a $2 difference for the cost of the key. That's it. It's very simple logic. It is not a one-size-fits-all. We don't just salt everything that gets served. We taste it first. Then we determine if it needs more salt. That's it. Best advice I can give you. Now, if you want to salt everything before you taste it, I'm not telling you not to. I'm saying that is the most illogical thing I've ever heard. But you're welcome to do that if you choose to. I just don't agree with it. I will not exercise that behavior, and I will not encourage it. Because you're just hurting yourself and potentially wasting salt and making your meal taste too salty because you couldn't be bothered to try it first. So don't freak out yet until you can justify. Don't run from a house fire unless you can confirm it's on fire. All right? That's all I'm trying to say. All right, let me just look through the chat some more and see what else we've got in here. Bradley Pagliaro says, oh, he's talking to David Graham. He says, I tried to upgrade a customer, I guess, I don't know, upgrade what? The system demanded 24H2 before 25H2 would load. The client switched to a different machine since I was not there physically. So, again, how can I explain this? People's lack of knowledge often results in them coming to the wrong solution. So Bradley, here's what you did wrong. You have falsely concluded that you needed 24H2 first because likely you went to Windows Update. If instead you had gone to, if you went to the Windows 11 Installation Assistant, which you would download, it's a small program you download from Microsoft. Well, here, let me just show you. Let me get rid of camera one for a second. See, knowledge is power. And so we get to these false conclusions when we give up instead of asking, what have I done wrong? Or what is everybody else doing? For some, like when I was growing up, whenever I encountered a problem, the first thing I was taught to ask myself is, well, I'm not the first person with this problem, so how is everybody else handling this problem? But for some reason in our culture, we've lost that. And we think, well, I'm having this problem, and it never occurs to us that we're not the only ones with the problem. So then we come to a conclusion that the information that we see as a result of handling it incorrectly is not our fault. It's not our understanding. It's the fault of Microsoft. But if we can educate, right? And if we can educate ourselves by saying, well, this didn't work, so I must be doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? You can now search the internet and find out the way other people have done it, instead of making the assumption and coming to the false conclusion that it can't be done. That's just causing harm to yourself. So what I want to show you is if we type in here, download Windows 11. And again, this isn't meant to insult anybody. I'm here to educate you, make your life easier. What did I just do? Download Windows 11. Here we go. And then right here, this first link, download Windows 11. Now, it doesn't matter if you've got 22H2, 23, 24H2. All you have to do is download the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. just like that. Download now. It's a pretty small program, and I guarantee you this will upgrade us from 22H2 to 25H2. But if you're trying to do it a different way, it may not work. There's yet another way you could have done this. Well, there goes a video driver right there is being installed. You see, you did it wrong, and it didn't occur to you that there were other ways you could have done it. Not just this way. This is one of many ways. The second way, that's the most obvious, would be to use your media creation tools. So in my case, if we come back over here to, hold on a second, let me come back to camera one. And again, just to educate you, if you just made a media installation, like I talked about using the media creation tool from the same website I just showed you, and you run setup within Windows, it doesn't matter if it's Windows 10, Windows 11, 22H2, it'll just install right on top of it, skipping over 23 and 24H2. Those are two examples, and if I bother to research it, I bet you I come up with two more different ways. So the first question, when you think it can't be done or it has to be done a certain way, with computers there's usually 3-4 different ways to do the same thing. So the question is, what other ways are there? What am I missing? What does everybody else do to solve this problem? And then you will be more self-sufficient in educating yourself moving forward, instead of being stuck like, oh, I've got to install 23H2, wait for that, then I got to install 24H2 and wait for that, then I can install 25. No, that's an option, but there's other ways that are far more efficient. Now in my case, just based on this operating system being the way it is, I just rather reinstall the operating system. But I could do it this way. This will work just fine. So if we go back over here, let me get rid of camera one. And if I were to go to, let's see, full screen over here, it says we need the PC health check, right? That's normal. So we download the health check app. That's a little tiny app that we click on and run and accept the license terms. Now watch what happens. We'll open that up and it should tell us we're fully compatible. So we'll hit check now. This PC meets all Windows 11 requirements. So we can close this out. We can close this out. And we refresh this button. And here we go. 25H2 is ready to be installed right on top of 22H2 without requiring 23 and 24H2. That's why I do these videos live and unscripted. There's nothing manipulated here. I'm only here to help you. If you find the help offensive, I apologize. Sometimes people's feelings get hurt, but I think the education is more important than the feelings. And then you will then be much more self-sufficient, self-reliant, and then you will extend that knowledge hopefully to other people. And this is how we encourage proper education, by setting an example. And once you verify that it's true, you have just evolved. So for now, I'm not going to do that, but I could. So I'm going to decline this, and then we're going to restart, and we're going to see if we're activated. I don't know, honestly, what's going to happen. It might activate, it might not. Either way, we'll handle it. Again, if it doesn't activate, we can write to ADREAMER, provide them with a receipt if they ask for it. We just bought this from Amazon, and there's no activation code. So as I mentioned, there's lots of different ways to accomplish a goal. So in this example, and to continue with the theme, if we were to reach out to ADREAMER, likely we're going to get a response within a day or two with an apology and a new license code. But what if we don't? By the way, you can keep yourself up at night and never get a wink of sleep if you play the what if game, because it never ends. There's no end. You could play what if until the day you die. Until you actually do something, what if is just a waste of time, and it's a fun daydreaming activity, but it matters not, because at the end of the day, all that matters is what actually happens, not what could have. So when we're prepared for it, you say, okay, well, I just want to be prepared. So what happens if I get one of these machines? And that machine also doesn't contain activation. Okay. You're not done yet, are you? No, no, we're going to keep whittling down to the finest grain. What if I reach out to ADREAMER and they don't respond, or they say, tough cookies, we're not giving you a license key? Then I have to buy a license key, don't I? No, you don't. You have 30 days. If you bought this from Amazon, send it back. Send it back. You'll get a full refund. It'll cost you nothing. Don't buy that brand ever again. Or pay the $25 if you think it's worth it. You see, there's so many different ways to solve a problem that if you tried one way and it didn't work, you probably tried the wrong way. And that's where you should start before falsely concluding that the solution that was offered to you that you found unacceptable, like having to install 23H2 and 24H2, that was your first clue. You're going about it the wrong way. But, you know, recognizing that and knowing how to respond to it is part of the education process. We all do it, by the way. How do you think I learned it? So not picking on anybody, it's just human behavior. Hey, our channel administrator is now a member for 40 months. That's pretty good. Orban Colossus says trial and error is underrated. Well, people frown on failure when you should be embracing failure. If you never fail, you're not learning. I don't know about you, but I don't want to stop learning. And if you're not failing, you're not learning. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, okay, I don't really understand what Carey's saying. So the next time it happens, why don't you email Carey and say, what would you do in this situation? And I'll tell you. And through enough practice, you'll be able to do it on your own, and you won't need to ask me that question anymore. I'm happy to help. I just hate to see you struggle unnecessarily or come to a false conclusion that you think is accurate when it isn't accurate.
Yeah. I was just testing it because Charlie said it wasn't working for him.
Oh,
So,
well, I think you're only allowed to do it once a month if Charlie already did it.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to do that once a month. Orban Colossus says, I don't know, Carey, I think your first words were, take me to a keyboard. I didn't have my first computer till 1980, so I was 12 years old. So I'm pretty sure I learned how to speak before 1980, but it's definitely ingrained in my genes genetically. All right, let's check our activation status right now, because if it's not activated now, then our key is invalid. So let's turn off camera 1 here just to get the whole screen and see what our results are. So I'm going to come down here and just type in activation and see what it says. Okay, so the activation state remains inactive for the same reason. Now we could try to troubleshoot this, although we're probably wasting our time. Let's try it, see what it does. We weren't able to activate Windows. You can activate this device by purchasing a copy. What if I click this button here? No, that's not going to work. All right, never mind. So yeah, for whatever reason, there's a problem with this key. What if it actually had a Windows 11 Pro on it? See, this what if game, this is a game you can play forever in your imagination that has nothing to do with reality. But if this was refurbished, and if the person who refurbished it put Windows 11 Home on it when it was supposed to have Pro, then the Pro key will not activate this and give us the same error. That's a pretty identical error. So how would you know unless you try to install Pro anyway, which we're going to do anyway, and don't be surprised if the key automatically works. That would certainly provide some evidence that the operating system changed. And then why would it change? and then you combine it with the way it was packaged and the way it looks like it was opened, we don't know for a fact that it was. But that's adding to the evidence. It's still not enough evidence because it's still our imagination. Without evidence, it's only your imagination. But if that helps you sleep better at night, that you have an explanation that's feasible, that's at least something. That's why having the ability to return this within 30 days means that this is a voluntary decision you would make. So why would you keep it? If it bothers you that much, return it. You could ask Amazon to cross-ship you a new one so that you're sure you don't get the same one back, and then see if the replacement is the same. That's what I would do. I'd give them a second chance. And if the replacement, if it all appears to be refurbished, I would definitely leave a comment that it appears to be refurbished, unless you have evidence otherwise, to warn other buyers so that they can adjust their expectations if you want to help the community. But don't make false claims, please. Unless you have the evidence to back those claims up, you're just poisoning the community with toxic information. So, you know, I'm asking you to do the decent thing, but obviously you can do whatever you want. So let's go ahead and put our Windows 11 in here. Okay, and let's reboot. Restart. And I'll start pressing the delete key. Once that word restarting goes away, let me get rid of camera 1 so I can see the whole screen. Oops. Delete, 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 delete. Delete, 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 and I missed it. Okay, so it may not even be the delete key. It might be F2 or a different key, because I had plenty of time, so I must be pressing the wrong key. And I don't think anything on the bottom of this tells us how to get into the BIOS, but let me just double check. Oh, I need my other glasses to read this, so hold on a second. There are stickers on, there is a sticker on the bottom of the Mini. And sometimes how to get into the BIOS is written on the sticker. All the sticker says is it's an Ariebox10, the FCC ID, and a warning to avoid electric shock. Don't plug it in arbitrarily. I don't know what that means. Please contact us or authorized professionals for help. What? I can't make heads or tails of that. Designed by ADREAMER, made in China. That's all it says. So if we don't know the key to get into the BIOS, we can keep guessing, or we can simply remember the theme of today's show is apparently try another way. With computers, you probably have about a half dozen ways to do whatever it is you're trying to do. So if one way doesn't work, try another way. If that way doesn't work, keep looking for alternate ways or search for what other people have done. So let's do this. Rather than sit around and try and figure it out, you know, I'm just curious. There's no way that's a paid version of Word, right? That's a trial. Oh, wow. Please activate Windows and then restart an Office app to claim your offer. Okay, that's suspect. I don't know what that is. So they're going to let us use Office for 5 days, after which if you don't activate Office within 5 days, it won't run anymore until you do. All it'll do is ask you to activate it. And if you don't activate it, it closes. So we're going to wipe all that out. I just want to make sure I was not wiping out a copy of Microsoft Office. What version of Office was that anyway? That would also be out of date. Let me bring it up one more time and go to Account. And okay, Office 365. As far as I know, Office 365 requires a sign-in to Microsoft OneDrive. So I don't want that anyway. Yeah, that's pretty old. But again, that would be between, like if you feel like, hey, this is supposed to be on here, this Word, Excel, that would be between you and ADREAMER to get that working. Maybe they have a fix for that, or maybe they don't. I really don't know. and how you choose to respond to that by returning the unit for a refund or just accepting that, like any other mini PC, it's not included. That's, you know, think whatever you want. Be offended or be happy, you know, it's your choice how you want to respond to that. Settings, and then we're going to go to Windows Update, and then we're going to go to Advanced Options, and then Recovery, and then Advanced Startup. Right, start. This will start up with a special boot menu, and one of the options will be to enter the BIOS. It's that easy. So you don't, who cares what the key is or when to press it? Just go through those steps. That's been the same since Windows 10. And it might take a couple of clicks, but so what? It may end up being faster and more efficient than just rebooting endlessly to figure out the right key combination or press the key at the right time. So again, you decide. What we're going to do is go to Troubleshoot, and then we're going to go to Advanced Options, and then you'll see the option for UEFI firmware settings, and then Restart. Now when the computer restarts, as long as I don't touch anything, it'll restart to the BIOS. Once we're in the BIOS, we can then override our boot device to tell it to boot to the flash drive instead of the internal drive without permanently changing it. I mean, you could permanently change it if you want to work harder instead of smarter. We could go in here and change the order permanently, but that's going to suck because we're going to have to go back in here and change it back. We just want it to boot one time to the flash drive first. And at that point, we then want it to default to booting from the C drive, or the NVMe drive rather, to continue our Windows install from that point forward. Otherwise, you'll just keep rebooting again and again and again to the Windows setup. Even after you've already run it, you'll be stuck in a loop because you decided to do things in a difficult way, which is not illegal. If you want to do it that way, I'm not here to tell you not to. Just saying you shouldn't. It's just that Simpsons, he deep fries his hat. Or no, he deep fried his shirt. And Marge says, he's at the carnival. And Marge says, I thought when you asked the food vendor to deep fry your shirt, they said you can't. No, they said I shouldn't. All right, let's go next. Next. Install Windows 11. I agree to everything's going to get wiped out on that C drive. It wants a product key, but Microsoft wants you to install. Like I said, the product key is optional. They don't make it really big print, but it's there. I don't have a product key. So without a product key, it doesn't know what version of Windows to install. So now it's going to ask you. So we're going to go ahead and put Windows 11 Pro on here. And then I'm going to hit Next. And accept the license agreement, of course. And we're going to delete all the existing partitions on disk 0. So disk 0 has partition 1. We're going to delete that. Disk 0, you know, the next partition becomes 1, so we'll delete that one. And we'll delete that one, and we'll delete that one right there. So when we're all said and done, we have one drive or disk 0 unallocated with no partitions. This is like how drives ship from manufacturers. They don't know if you're going to use it in a PlayStation, an Xbox, a Mac, or Linux, or Windows. They're all different formats that aren't compatible with each other in most cases. So they just ship it empty, and Windows will take care of that for you, or iOS will take care of that, or your virtual machine software will take care of it to conform that to whatever compatibility you need for however you want to use it. In our case, we want to use it in Windows, so just let Windows take care of it right from the scratch by hitting Next. After selecting that drive, it confirms that it's going to create all the partitions for us, format them, and then install Windows. That's what we want, and off it goes. It's that easy. So even though it says it's installing Windows 11, what it's really doing is preparing your hard drive with the partitions and formats. Then it's copying all of the Windows 11 installation files off of the flash drive onto the internal hard drive. Then it's going to reboot. At that point, you no longer need that flash drive anymore. You can leave it plugged in, it won't hurt anything, but it's not using it after the first reboot. Now it's loading, or rather it's installing Windows from the installation files that it's copying over to the drive now. And those installation files on your drive will install on the same drive the actual operating system from those installation files. And then it'll reboot again and ask us to do the out-of-box experience. Right? That's where we put in our username and our privacy settings. And then it says it's preparing Windows for us and brings us to the desktop. Then we can install drivers. And we'll go to Windows Update first just to see what drivers are provided automatically, assuming that we have the ability to get on the network, which I think we will, depending on whether or not the network card drivers are built into Windows 11 currently or not. On a system this old, we probably aren't going to have any problem with that. You're more than likely going to see that on brand new hardware where the drivers are, fairly new and have not been integrated into Windows 11 yet. All right, so while that installs, let me get back over to camera 1, and I'll move it out of the way because, of course, now it's in the way over there. I'll put it down here, and then later that'll be in the way, blocking the bottom. Then I'll move it over there, then that'll be in the way. Maybe we can broadcast on 2 monitors, requiring all viewers to watch us on 2 screens. And I guess that's not going to work on mobile. Didn't think that one through before I said it out loud. And Joseph, just to clarify, said that when he was talking about refurbished, see, without any context in your messages in the chat room, if you're not going to specify what you're talking about, then it's pretty reasonable for me to misunderstand without you providing the information that you were referring to something else you said earlier, which I didn't see. And if you would have just said, with regards to, and then filled in the blank, you could have avoided the miscommunication. And because there's a delay between when I talk and when you hear me, also, you could be having a conversation with somebody else and I'm just eavesdropping on it. It helps everybody in the chat room understand the context of multiple conversations and who's saying what to who and who's talking about what reference point. So if you just reply with yes, I don't know what are you replying to somebody who asked you a question? Are you responding to a question I asked, and when did I ask it? But if you would elaborate a little bit, yes to your reference, boy, that would clarify a lot of miscommunication. But there you go. That's how it happens. Not intentional. People just don't think about it. If it was just me and you talking and that we weren't, in a room full of other people also discussing, that wouldn't be as important. You'll see other people like Mike's Unboxing, Reviews and How To, or Doug Betts constantly have no idea the reference point of their content, the comments that are made in the chat room. And constantly, this is so common, where somebody's like, oh, I wasn't talking to you, or no, I wasn't talking about that. Well, it would have helped if you would have stated who you were talking to and what you were talking about every time you post. Otherwise, it's assumed you're talking to me. Yeah, anyway, you don't have to. It just helps clarify that kind of misunderstanding. If you don't like it, you can prevent it from happening. And if you don't mind it, we'll continue to have miscommunication. It's okay, but know what to expect. All right, fair enough. There's Shamim Keshvira saying hello from Gothenburg, Sweden. Welcome in, Shamim. Good to see you, my friend. Mortant says hello as well. And let's see. Just looking for other comments since we're waiting here. Or the answer is I just ignore the chat room, right? If people aren't talking to me anyway, then I can just focus on the video and ignore the chat room, but that's not really what I want to do. Corbin Colossus says, I am puzzled, procrastinating between using the media creation tool and buying Windows. That would be like saying, I'm confused about eating a pizza or buying a pizza. It's not my best metaphor. It doesn't really hold up. When you're buying Windows, you're buying a product key. You're not buying the software, you're buying the product key. When you buy a license plate for your car, you're not buying the car. You buy the car separately. Now in this case, if Windows 11 is the car, it's free. But to put the license plate on it, you have to pay for the license plate. Regardless. Regardless if you got the car for free or you paid for the car, you should not pay for Windows 11. You'd be a fool to pay for Windows 11. Or Windows 10, or Windows 7, or Windows 8, or Windows XP. They're always free. All you're paying for is the license. So if you want to buy the license, that comes after. If you don't want TPM and you don't want security, you should probably get offline or use Android, and you should not be a Windows user. If Windows doesn't meet your demands, I would highly recommend you stop using Windows. Because if you circumvent the Windows security, you will have your identity and your bank accounts stolen. Just give it time. Your insistence on trying to outsmart Windows is putting yourself in harm's way. And if you want to do that, you can, but I cannot condone it or recommend it. I think it's profoundly foolish that you would underestimate how dangerous the internet is. And if you're that smart, why are you using Windows? Use Linux, use a Mac, use a Google Book. Stay away from Windows if you think you're smarter than Windows. Stay away from it. It's not for you. For the rest of us, move along. Don't worry about those people. I don't know why they think they live on another planet where different rules apply, but they will, by circumventing those security settings, essentially, why don't you just leave your windows and doors open to your house and your car? Give it time. You're going to get robbed blind. I don't care how safe you think your neighborhood is. I guarantee you, if you insist on leaving your doors and windows unlocked and open on your house and your car, wherever you live, give it time. Someone's going to take everything you've got. Maybe you want that. Maybe you like somebody to steal from you. Maybe you want to have your identity stolen. I'm assuming you don't, but I don't know you. It wouldn't surprise me in the world today that there are people like that. So if Windows no longer, there are certain threats that exist by using Windows. And the answer isn't to disable the security. The answer is to stop using Windows. So start using something else or get on board with the rest of the planet. Otherwise, you're just harming yourself, really. I hate to see that. I would hate for you to have your identity stolen and go through years of paperwork processes and legal courtroom stuff to get your identity back just because you don't understand the depth of what you just did. You'll understand it when it happens, and you'll understand what I'm telling you, how gravely important what I'm telling you is. The gravity of this is not a joke. So if you just can't get your head around it, stop using Windows. Please, for your own sake, find something else to use. The internet is a dangerous, dangerous place, and it gets more dangerous every day. And the people who are at risk most are Windows users. So you want all the security you can get. You don't want to be turning it off. That's like walking onto a battlefield without any armor or weapons. That's just suicide. You might get away with it for a while, but just keep doing it and watch what happens. It's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do. I just don't know why you would choose anything that would cause self-harm, but what do I know? Let's finish this up. So here we've got country is United States, yeah, and US is my keyboard. Secondary keyboard, nope. And oh gosh darn it, I kept myself plugged in online. Ah, rats. Well, in this case, it's probably okay. I should have unplugged the Ethernet cable. I forgot. This is what I was trying to avoid. But since this has all the updates already embedded in it, part of the problem is I don't know what it's doing. That bothers me. So I don't know how long it's going to take. It could be downloading some drivers right now. And I screwed up. I should have unplugged the internet before I started this install to avoid, because we'd already be at the desktop by now. We'd still have to go to Windows Update later, but at least I could see what it's doing, right? Am I getting drivers? I shouldn't be getting any security updates other than antivirus. Please name your device. We'll skip that for now. And it's not that it causes necessarily harm by leaving it plugged in. It's that I don't know what it's doing. That's what's bothering me. And should there be a problem, I won't know why. So that's why it's best to leave it unplugged from the internet. And that's a live example that I wasn't planning on demonstrating, but here we are. So I think we got away with it and we're okay. Set it up for personal use. Okay, so this is the other problem leaving it plugged in, is it's going to want us to create a Microsoft account. We can't tell it we don't have internet when it knows we have internet. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and unplug it from the internet now, and then continue on, and it'll try to activate. It'll try to log into Microsoft, and it won't because it lost internet access. So let's see what happens when we type in the username of user, blank password. Look at that. And it did not even, once we disconnected from the internet, it didn't even try to contact Microsoft for a login. You know, I set that the same way as I always do. And it'll prepare the desktop for us. Once the desktop comes back up, then I'm going to plug my internet cable or my Ethernet cable back in. Silly me. It's not the end of the world. It just made it harder. I could have gotten here a lot faster if I would have done it the recommended way. But just because you don't do something the recommended way doesn't mean you won't be successful. It just means you worked a little bit harder or took a little bit longer to get there. So it's just, for me personally, bad for business to make things take longer. Customers wait longer, and I can't help as many people, and I can't make as much money. Why would I want that? Why would any business want that? And if I wouldn't want it, I would assume you wouldn't want it either. But as you can see, there's multiple ways to do the same thing, and it may end up with the same result when you're done. It's just how long it took you and how many steps you had to go through to get there. That's all. Just like 23H2 and 24H2 and 25H2 versus the Windows Installation Assistant versus, you know, running setup off of a media installation right inside of Windows. Lots of options, lots and lots of options. And if the option you picked isn't working, you picked the wrong option. Just look for other options. Google it. Use your phone. Find out what other people have done. Okay, let's plug the internet back in. Watch that bottom right corner. We'll see that little globe. Let's see if it flashes this time. There we go. That's an indication of 25H2, and that was much faster. Now, let's look in the device manager. What sort of condition are we in on the device manager? So by default, we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. That's it. And more than likely, the AMD Adrenaline tool will take care of most of that. So first, let's see what Windows Update has to offer with regards particularly to drivers. It does say you have to activate Windows before you personalize your PC. So whatever key was on here may have in fact been for Windows 11 Home, because it didn't auto-activate on Windows 11 Pro, or at least not yet. Right now, a video driver is being downloaded and installed, which is why the screen has blanked out, and it should come back here in just a moment. There it is. So we're going to go ahead and hit check for updates because it's already running updates in the background. And while that runs, let me check my power settings again so that the machine doesn't go to sleep on us while we're live. So we'll go over here, change that to a couple hours, and this to never. If I can do it right. There we go. Save those changes, and then we'll change what the power buttons do. I want the power button to turn off the computer. And there is no sleep button, so do not save those changes. Close this window. And what are we downloading? Antivirus updates, security updates. Okay, there's an Intel wireless driver and AMD drivers are already going to come automatically through Windows Update. So while we're waiting for those, we can turn some other preferences that I have on, including looking under advanced options for more drivers. I don't even read these, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even read these. If they're being offered, I strongly recommend you accept them. Don't try to outsmart it unless you like to cause self-harm or you have a lot of time on your hands to figure out why it was being offered to you to begin with. Just accept them and move on. Finally, there's a few other options under advanced I like to change. I like to change this and this. I also like to change this. And I like to turn off delivery optimization, which is great in an office with dozens of computers, but in a home environment, it's a waste. May not be hurting anything, but it also won't hurt anything to turn it off either. These should be really small updates because these are all drivers, so this should happen really quick. Watch the installs. Completed. Installing. Right here. Watch how fast. Done. Next one. Done. Next one. Done. Next one. Done. And finally, that's the good thing about drivers. They're quick. Let's restart. Unless it's a video card driver. Those could be pretty chunky. When it reboots, we're going to check our device manager and see if that took care of everything. Regardless, I'm still going to download the AMD Adrenalin driver because that gives us the application we're not getting through Windows Update, which gives us more granular control and information about the CPU and the chipset driver and the GPU. And it's probably more up-to-date and current than what even Microsoft Update offers because of how much time it takes to do the research. And by the time Microsoft does the research and adds the driver to Windows Update, the driver's, in the case of AMD Adrenalin, already old. It takes a lot of labor and a lot of time to go through all that research. So for that reason, we want to make sure we're using the latest drivers, and that'll give us our best performance, our best reliability. Let's right-click on the Start button here, and we're going to go to Manager. Hold on a second, let me do this right. Here it is. What do we got in there? So it didn't really take care of much, did it? We had 5 before, now we're down to 4. Okay, so regardless of that, it doesn't change what I'm about to do. It's just more of a curiosity. So we're going to start without data. Check. And we're going to go up here and we're going to type in AMD Adrenalin, and I can see I'm in 4K mode. Everything's tiny again, but I'm going to postpone that for a minute because this is a video driver. Accept the cookies, download the software, download the Windows drivers. It downloads up here. It's already done. Click once on it. Click yes on the user account control. And we're done with this. We can close all this out, just declare any clutter or confusion of what's going on screen, and put our sole focus on this installer. It's critical, absolutely critical. If you want the best performance that you paid for, you want this. So this is the graphics driver and the chipset drivers. Now, whether or not you want to help AMD, you can check or uncheck this box. Super easy. If you have an AMD computer, whether it's a laptop, a mini PC, or a desktop, or you built it yourself or pre-built, if it's AMD and you've never done this, you're missing out. If it's been a couple months since you've done this, you're missing out. You're leaving performance, security, and reliability on the floor and stepping over it. And you don't even realize you're doing it in most cases. This is completely free. And even if you download the same version you have now, it won't hurt anything. But if it is newer than what you have now, it'll improve the performance of your computer, the reliability, and the security of your computer, all for free, just because you have knowledge that most people don't have. So we'll give that a second. And let me jump back over to the chat room while we're waiting. Frankie's asking about what version of Windows we installed. Well, I created the media creation, this media installer I created last week using 25H2. In fact, I created the media installer in October with 25H2. So I don't have to check, I know what I put on. I didn't know what it shipped with because I don't know what the manufacturer put on, but I know damn well what I'm putting on, or I wouldn't be putting it on if I didn't know. And Microsoft's been updating the media installer, Frankie, every month to include all of the latest updates, so you don't have to download them after the fact. So this Windows 11 media creation tool, this year, I've made it about 4 times with Windows 11 25H2. The first time is the original release, and then the next 3 times are the slipstream updates as Microsoft makes them available. Microsoft used to not do this, so I'm so glad they started about 3 months ago, updating the media creation tool every month. Then I don't have to download all those updates again. They're already built into the installer. So the version of Windows 11 that's on my installer is 26200. What is it, 8754, something like that. We can look just to see the exact build number, but it'll always be the same. It'll never change until I update the installer on my flash drive, because that's what's on the flash drive. So that's what gets installed when I use the flash drive until I change the flash drive. There goes a video driver right when I hit Murphy's Law. As soon as I was scrolling down, you can't make this stuff up, man. And that's why most people would edit that right out. You never know. So yeah, 26200-8457. That should be the version on your computer. If you're up to date today, May 22nd, 2026, you should not have a number bigger than that. Otherwise, I don't know what you've got. And that's the beauty of having an updated installer. And yeah, we want to keep these boxes checked. I'll hit close here. And in just a moment, we should see the AMD Adrenalin software pop up as it's finalizing its install. And we'll skip that. And I'll clear out these messages here. Clear all. Now let's check the device manager, see what it looks like, if anything has changed. I'm going to say a little bit has changed. So we don't need anything from ADREAMER. So whether or not they provide drivers for this, I don't know. But given that this model seems to be missing off of their website, would suggest to me it's something that's no longer made. You'd still think for archival purposes they would make it available in the support section, and maybe they have. I haven't even looked, but what do I care? Because if they do have it, it's old. Everything we've got now is much newer, including the version of Windows installed. However, I'm going to guess we don't have any product key here. If I right click and go to, I don't want to do that. I want to type in just activation. I don't think anything's changed. It's probably, yeah, it's going to need a key. All right. And again, if that's unacceptable, return the unit. But because you've got 30 days, reach out to ADREAMER or any manufacturer that this could happen to and say, please advise what I should do. And don't tell them what to do. Just say, hey, I just bought this computer off Amazon and there's no activation running. Please advise. If you're kind, they want to be kind. If you're nasty, they're probably going to be nasty. So if you say, you ripped me off by selling me this computer and you're a bunch of jerks, and you better provide me with a new key, they'll probably tell you to get bent, right? Because you just asked for it. You just attacked somebody and they just defended themselves. So if you're asking somebody for help, be nice. Don't demand help, ask for it politely. You'll probably get it every time. But again, it doesn't prevent us from using Windows in any way. But if I want to change this wallpaper, I can't because we're not activated. If I go to personalize this, all the personalization settings are, if I try to do anything, it's basically telling us you need to activate Windows before you can personalize. So if you don't care about personalizing the computer, then you don't need to pay for an activation key or pursue it. Other than that, Windows doesn't change. That's all it is. So there you go. That was super easy. Let me go full screen over here. All right. So now I suppose what I should do is grab my utilities flash drive and let's see what kind of performance we're getting out of that NVMe drive. I'd like to see 5,000 megabytes a second or better on the reads and writes. I don't know that we're going to get that on a budget machine, but that's what I'd like. I'd also like filet mignon at McDonald's. I'm allowed. It's pretty windy out there. Something just fell outside. Okay, so with my flash drive plugged in, let's get back over to the desktop here. And by the way, personalization doesn't include changing the resolution. You can still change the resolution without activation. I know it gets a little confusing. Isn't that personalizing? It's more of a usability problem. Wallpaper doesn't really affect how the computer is being used, but the resolution can prevent you from being able to read the screen. So Microsoft allows you to change the resolution, as I just demonstrated, without activation. It's just the nonsense, the colors, the fonts, the wallpapers, all the little silly stuff that, I don't know. I'm not an average user, so I don't know why anybody gives a rat's behind, but some people are very passionate about their wallpaper. You know, I always activate Windows. You know, I support Microsoft, but you don't have to. I've known people that ran their whole computers the whole 10 years, never activated Windows. True story. All right, let's do, what was I going to do? Oh, utilities CD. Utilities flash drive. I used to have utilities on a CD. That was a long time ago. You know me, I like to put VLC on my computers, and Uncle Carey's Windows Optimizer I like to put on there. And then under PC testing software, we'll grab Crystal Disk Mark Portable, and we'll grab Crystal Disk Mark Info just to see the make and model. And we can see how many times this NVMe drive's been powered on. That could allude to being refurbished, if it was. And then we'll grab our hardware info, whoopsie, grab that here. And then we're gonna grab Cinebench. It's a bigger one. Take a minute to copy over. With that done, I'm going to go over here and unplug the flash drive. And we're going to start up Crystal Disk Info, and let's learn a little bit about the drive before we test it. See what we're looking at here. Now, if you look, the drive has only been powered on 11 times, and it only has 2 hours of use on it. That doesn't sound refurbished to me. Not in the least bit. See what I'm getting at? All of a sudden now, refurbished doesn't make any sense. But we can confirm it is a Gen 4x4 running in Gen 4x4 mode. So that's good to know. And if we want to, we can take a screenshot of this. If I want to share it on an Amazon review, I'll just type in Crystal Disk Info. I prefer a JPEG file, me personally, so we'll select that. And I would like it on my desktop, then I'll select that. I hit save, and it'll appear somewhere. There it goes, right there. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing with Crystal Disk Mark. We're going to run that, 64-bit edition. See how Windows activation isn't preventing us from using Windows. We'll close that out, and we'll hit all. Let's see what kind of numbers we get. I'd like to see 5,000 better, 5,000 or better on the top read speed and the top write speed up there. I don't know that I'm going to get it, but that's what I'd like. Hey, that's pretty damn close. I'm okay with that. And I expect the writes to be slightly slower, but not by much. So we'll have to wait for this to finish. While it's running, let me bring camera 1 back up and find a corner. I'll find a corner to put myself in. And I'll look back over at the chat, see what everybody's talking about, so I can have more miscommunication. Because that's what makes the show interesting. It's just a terrible episode of Three's Company. Mr. Roper misunderstood something he overheard, and now we have a half-an-hour sitcom based on mishearing information or misunderstanding the information because you didn't get the full context. That's what we're doing in our chat room today, I guess. Let's see. Frankie B said during installation it didn't ask which version to install. Yes, it did. Rewind the video, Frankie. It absolutely did. And in fact, I talked about it. So I guess you missed it. If you're talking about what I did, unless I'm misunderstanding and you're talking about something you did, I'm assuming you're talking about what I just demonstrated and you can rewind and watch it again. It absolutely did ask. If you're referring to the version as not being 25H2, if you were referring to Home or Pro, it did ask us because it does not have a product key. Hey, Mitch Morrison joins us. Welcome in, Mitch. Oh, very good. So our write speed is at 4,300 and our read is at 4,800. As I mentioned, I really want to see 5,000, but the reality is for this price, you can't complain. That's actually really good. And a couple hundred megabytes between friends is dismissive. It's really not important. If it were important, we'd have paid more. Andy mentions the install tool has Windows 11 Pro on it. The install tool has all versions of Windows 11 on it. I only install either Windows 11 Home or Windows 11 Pro, but if you rewind the video, you'll see all the options we were given. I just ignore all but 2 of them. It's all here for you to rewind and verify everything. I guess people stepped away or weren't paying attention. But that's what's great about YouTube is I don't have to keep repeating myself. All you have to do is rewind and rewatch. I do it all the time. All right, let's go and save these results. So File, Save Image, Crystal Disk Mark. Why am I not getting a capital M? Okay. I want a JPEG file. I want it on the desktop. I want to save it. It should appear over here. There it is. Perfect. Results are saved. Now let's run hardware info 32 and let's beat the heck out of it with Cinebench just to see what sort of scores and temps we're gonna get on this and how loud it gets. Sensors only. Might be time for me to update this to a new version. I think we'll be okay. It's an older machine anyway. Let's move that over here first. And I can drop it down a bit. And is my camera still on? Of course it is. Now I'm in the way again. Let's get rid of the camera. And let's find our temperatures. Find the right arrow next to the temperatures. That's your core temps. Expand that out and we can look at the temps of the individual cores. Right now, just idling, we're pretty low. I mean, anything below 40 is good. So it's good and it's quiet, by the way. Let's go ahead and start Cinebench. Double click. Give that a second to fire up. It's chunky. There it goes. We'll close the window. Get rid of the clutter. Accept the license agreement and start the multi-core test. And then put the other window back on top. We'll keep an eye on these temps and see how it does. While we're waiting for the test to complete, I will jump back over to camera 1 and put myself in another corner that will eventually be in the way. Now, if you have any questions for me, since this test will take 10 minutes, then we're going to do the next test that'll take another 10 minutes. We have this time to talk to each other if you want to talk to me. Or ignore me and talk to each other. Whatever keeps you happy, you're my guest. So I'm just going to sit here and stare and keep my mouth shut until I'm addressed. Shamim Kajveras says, thank you, Carey. Are you familiar with Snapdragon processors from Qualcomm? I've seen it in some laptops. Yeah, we bought a laptop last year, was it 2 years ago, with the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite X processor from Samsung, the Galaxy Book, what's it called? The Galaxy Book 4. And I primarily bought it for the extended battery life. And I was primarily using it to use remote access to upgrade my Windows 10 customers to Windows 11 because that upgrade can take a while. I wanted a machine that I could just kind of lay back in bed with the TV on, start my customers' upgrade, and then go back to watching TV, and then wait for that to finish, and then update, do the Windows updates and address any issues while lying in bed with the laptop without worrying about battery life, and it did that great. Got all my customers upgraded to Windows 11, and have closed the laptop and put it in a drawer. It's a very low-end processor as far as performance goes, but it gives you really good battery life. So if you're using your laptop for like schoolwork, or you're not playing games on it, you really want that long battery life. Email, web surfing, paying bills online, shopping online, social media online, watching YouTube videos online, it's fantastic. But if I want to render a video in 4K or whatever with a video editing software, no, it's not good. But I do like it for what it's designed to do. Don't go buy a sports car and then complain about how bad it is at off-wheel drive, what am I thinking of? Off-road driving. Buy a four-wheel drive truck for that. But if you buy a four-wheel drive truck that's good for off-roading, then don't complain about how uncomfortable it is to drive at long distances on the freeway. In that case, you want more of a luxury car. But then if you buy the luxury car, don't complain that you can't fit a couch in the back of it because it's not an SUV. But then don't buy the SUV you see where I'm going? So in much the same way as there are different types of cars, from SUVs and sports cars and convertibles, electric vehicles, high horsepower, low horsepower, high gas mileage, low gas mileage, hybrid models, 4 doors, 2 doors, hatchbacks. All that variety exists to meet the needs of the buyer, so that we're not living in Soviet Russia where we all have to drive the same car or live in the same apartment, or identical apartments, even though they're not literally the same. They're all built exactly the same, and you don't have anything I don't have. Matt Turian says, what version of Rufus are you currently using? The answer is simply the latest. I only download Rufus when I need it. I do not keep it. That way I only use the latest version on the day that I use it. I don't use the beta version. Hey, Bajan Guy joins us and says hello. Welcome in, Bajan Guy. Tim Francis also joins us here in our live chat. So if you have a question for me, you've got my attention. If you wait until we're done with this testing, I probably won't be paying attention to the chat and you missed your opportunity. Of course, you could always leave a comment if you missed chatting with me, or you can send us an email. We'll get to that at the end of the show. Let's see. Check a few things out on my side, on the technical side of things, what's going on. Very good. Stream quality is looking really good today. We've had 0 drop frames. We've been live for 2.5 hours. We've not lost one single frame. We're sending out 30 frames of 4K video per second times 2.5 hours, and not a single frame has dropped. So whatever that problem was, whoever was responsible, the internet service provider or YouTube themselves, we pulled our hair out trying to make changes over here that made no difference. And that's because it wasn't our problem. And that's all you can do sometimes, is wait for the party responsible to take care of it. I am starting to hear these fans. How would I describe that noise level? It's quieter than my microwave. A lot quieter, but it's louder than it was, because before it was perfectly silent. Now I definitely hear fans running, but it's not disruptive. I don't feel like I have to talk over it. In fact, I haven't looked full screen on these temps. Let me see what it's doing. $89.8 is our maximum. That's on what, Core 4? And it only hit it for a brief moment. That's fine. That's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So it appears to have a very good cooling system in that it's allowing us to get hotter for that higher performance, but not giving us even higher performance where it overheats or crashes. So that's where you want it. And we got about 2 more minutes, a little bit more than that for this warm-up, and then the actual benchmark begins. And that's the multi-core test we're running. Then we'll run the next test, the single-core test. And then we'll grab a screenshot of our results, save that to the desktop. Again, these are great to be able to share in a review like on Amazon, so buyers know what to expect. Probably the only concern I've seen with this is the lack of the activation. And in every experience I've ever had, the manufacturers, when asked, provide a new key. I've never seen it any other way. So if we ask ADREAMER for a key, they might only provide a Windows 11 home key. Most manufacturers will provide either one at no cost. We'd have to email them and find out. So I don't know what kind of customer service they have, how long it takes, or how responsive they are, or if they respond at all. I have no idea. And because I can't answer that today, that would, linger as a potential issue unless you're willing to just buy a copy of Windows. And then you don't have to worry about what kind of support they have unless you have a warranty issue. But your warranty is only 1 year. So that won't take long. And after that, you're on your own anyway, regardless of support. So again, you get what you pay for. I think that if you're that demanding, you should spend a little bit more. Let's see. Is the small fan whiny? Not at all. No, and I can't tell you which fan is making the most noise, if it's this one on top. Well, the one on top is audible for sure, but it's not terrible. I think both the CPU fan and this fan that covers the RAM and solid state drive are running at full speed right now. That's what this test is intended to do, is beat the heck out of the computer and torture it. And if that's as loud as it gets, it's very tolerable to me anyway. The good news is if you buy one from Amazon and you disagree, return it for a full refund at no cost. And then let us know, tell us if you returned it, why, what you found unacceptable. And then see how many other people agree with you, just out of curiosity. Are you overly sensitive than most people? Or are most people agreeing that, yeah, it's too loud? I think it's crazy to push the machine this hard for this long, given what it is and what it costs. The fact that it does it so well, and it does it so quietly, is indicative of the price, if that's not good enough for you. Okay, there's our first test completed. Let me go over here, full screen for me. Take a look. 14,906 is our score. Let's go ahead and do the single core test, and I'll hit start, and then I got to bring the other window back. And what was our maximum temp throughout all of that? We'll just round it to 90. Let's just say it's 90 degrees Celsius. That's still good headroom. The machine could get hotter. It's totally safe. You just wouldn't want to run it hotter all the time, or you're going to degrade it very quickly. So I would just leave it just as it is. I wouldn't try and get any more out of it. Just the way they engineered it is perfect. Perfect balance. The fans are a lot quieter right now, so our temps must be lower. So our current temps are listed on this first row. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're down in the 40s right now. Only one of the cores is working. It's probably core number 1, because you see how that's hotter than everything else. And this is a single core test, and it doesn't choose each core individually. It just chooses one core. I don't know how it chooses, and the entire test will stay on that core, and all the other cores are just getting, if they're getting hotter, it's because of how close they are to the chip that's getting hot. The heat's bleeding over to them, but they won't get that much hotter. So anyway, just so you know what's going on with that. I don't even know who the single core test is for anyway, but we do it to torture it because we don't know what an end user is going to do. So this covers the worst case scenarios, and if it can survive this without a hiccup, without a crash, without being really noisy, then there's a 99.9% chance that the customer we sell it to will never ever push it this hard or for this long. If that customer does, then the customer bought the wrong machine. It'd be like buying that sports car and then driving it off-road. You'd have to be a fool. But no law against being a fool. Know what to expect from what you're buying and spend accordingly. Bradley says, what can I do to improve network latency over the internet? Is it entirely up to the ISP? No, basically, depending on the context of your question. If you said, how long should I keep the chicken in the oven? At what temperature? And how much chicken? Your question is so open-ended that what you should be asking is where the latency is that you're experiencing. That's what I need to know first. Is it when you're playing a game? Because usually latency questions are related to gaming. It could be the game itself. It could be the server you're on. It could be your router. It could be your ISP. It could be your cabling. Are you on Wi-Fi? It could be your Wi-Fi connection. So basically, instead of assuming you're having a latency problem in general, back your question up, take it another step backwards, and say, when I do this particular task on my computer, I'm noticing a lag or a delay. That's the question. And then from there, an answer would be potentially more accurate and helpful to you. Andrew Murray says hello. He says he's finally catching a live stream. Nice. He's telling Forbin Colossus an i5-1345 will run Windows 11. Of course it will. Rate the install media with Rufus and do a clean install. And we have demonstrated that here dozens and dozens and dozens of times. In fact, we most recently did it last month, just showing you how to do that. We already have a walkthrough, and all you have to do is follow step by step. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to look, and try and figure it out on your own. Just search our videos, find the one most recently that shows how to do that, and follow it literally click by click, and you're good to go. Of course, you don't have to follow my video. There's lots of websites and lots of other YouTube videos. Just pay attention to when they were published, because if they're older than a year, they're out of date, and find a newer video. Orban says, okay, Carey, I'm buying a membership. Well, we'd love to have you. And we appreciate your support because we're viewer funded. As long as we have the funding from the viewers, we'll keep making new content. If viewers leave us an exodus and we won't have the money, no matter how badly we want to do it, we won't be able to do this and go get I was going to say go get a job, but I have a job. I would just have to expand that job, helping other customers on location, not having any time to make videos because I still have to pay the bills. So your support means the world to me, and I greatly appreciate it. This just got really super quiet, so I'm guessing, without looking, the temperature's probably pretty low right now. It is dead silent. That's the good news. The only time you should hear this is when you're really working it hard. And I find that reassuring that it is working harder when I hear the fans, when it's supposed to be. If I'm rendering a video and I don't hear the fans, I think something must be wrong. I'm not getting everything out of this, and this is going to take a longer time. If your car's stuck in first gear, you know what I mean? You're not going to get too fast. You want to get to the next gear. Dustin Fuller says, great stream as always, Carey and Mara. Well, thank you, Dustin. Bradley says, my latency questions are based on test results from clients. I found that using a processor with a faster clock speed sometimes helps. So Bradley, I guess you're not understanding my question. What is the problem? There's always going to be latency. There's nothing you can do about latency. I don't know why you're determining a certain latency number is identifiable as preferred, where you're getting this idea from, and why you're looking at solving a problem when you haven't even told me what the problem is. You say you have latency, but that's not a problem. You understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you have latency, so what? What difference does it make? That's what I need to know. What are you trying to fix? Why are you looking at latency? Why did you even bother to take a look at it? Something had to trigger that, or were you just bored? That's what I'm curious about. Because if you're trying to fix a problem that isn't a problem, I don't know how to help you. If you're creating problems because you have nothing else to do, I'm assuming that's not what you're doing. I'm assuming there's some consequence that you're trying to resolve, and I'd like to know what it is so I know how to help you. Because it may not really be directly related to latency, but something prior to that that's that you're looking at a symptom instead of looking at the disease. And that's what I'm trying to verify. Foreman Colossus says, I supported you in your 12-step program to kick my Coca-Cola addiction. I did not kick my addiction. In fact, while this is running, why don't I go grab a Coke? It's been a while. I could use a Coke right now. Excuse me for a second. My Gatorade's warm anyway. Let me grab a nice ice-cold Coca-Cola. Because I don't drink as much of it, I am spoiling myself. Meaning, I am way overspending. And I'm justifying it because I'm saying, well, I used to buy a lot more of it, so I'm not really spending more than I used to. Silly. Silly, silly. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. First, because I don't drink as much of it, I don't need a full-size bottle. So I got these little bottles, glass bottles. These are like $1 a piece. You know, I could buy a lot of cans for that price. There we go. Cheers. Love the bubbles. Why did you... Mara just came in here and laughed at me and walked away. What was that all about?
Because I told you I thought those little bottles were kind of cute.
They make me feel like I'm bigger.
But I don't think, they don't look like they should be for humans to drink.
Is that a tiny bottle or huge hands?
Right. Right.
All right, let's jump over here. Bradley says a client has a benchmark that I need to meet. Again, you're being very vague with me, Bradley, and I can't be very specific to help you. I'd have to know what is the benchmark and why is it required to understand it. Because if a client hired me and said, I need this computer to do something it can't do, I can't help that customer. If your customer has a benchmark requirement that you've agreed upon and it's not within your purview, to have any control over the ISP or the service that they're connecting to. So if I'm connecting, let me put it this way, if I buy a Ferrari and I get on the freeway at rush hour, I can't drive the Ferrari any faster than the Prius next to me or the car ahead of me. And if you say, well, I'm not going to buy the car if you can't drive it faster, it's not possible unless you can alleviate all the traffic. So I have to understand, what do you need the speed for? What are we doing this for? And if the customer can't explain that, then I would say find help somewhere else, because you've got a customer that wants you to wave a magic wand. That's an ISP problem. That's not a technician problem. So unless you're working for the ISP, you would have no business in trying to resolve that, in my opinion. And if a customer was that vague, I'd say good luck to you and go our separate ways. Because if that customer is going to be that way, so unreasonable without justification, it's not going to be just one thing that they're that way about. They're going to be that way about lots of things. So again, without you giving me the details, the help that you're asking for can't be provided in the same way that the help the customer wants probably can't be provided by you. If that's what the customer wants, they'll have to get it probably from a more expensive internet service provider, if that's what they're being demanding about. No differently than if they wanted a faster internet connection. You can't do anything about that. That's between them and the ISP. But if what the customer is doing is they need it for a certain server, if that other server is slow, there's nothing you can do about that either. Nor is there anything the ISP can do about it. That's on the service they're using, not on you. There's nothing you can do, and it's an unfair thing to ask you to do it because they don't understand how technology works. And you as a technician, you should know, I can't help that customer because I don't have control over the ISP or the service they're trying to utilize at the opposite end. There's nothing you can do. Why not just tell the client and be honest with them, then commit yourself to something that is outside of your authority. You're just going to end up with a pissed off customer. Corbin Colossus says, Carey, I worked for a business where the owner loved Coke. It was the only thing he provided for free. Oh, he provided free Coca-Colas. I must have drank 6 Cokes a day until I jittered. Well, you punished yourself, didn't you? Bradley says, because I live in Hawaii, there's a long hop from Hawaii to the West Coast and then beyond. Yeah, well, how is that different from anybody else in Hawaii? Like, are you trying to get speeds of South Korea while you're in Hawaii? Because South Korea, as I understand it, has some of the fastest internet available to consumers of any country on the planet. So again, we'll go back to what I said earlier. What are other people doing? So in this case, I would ask myself, if there are latency problems in Hawaii, are they only affecting you, or are they affecting everyone in Hawaii equally? And if it is affecting just you, what are you doing differently? Or what is your client doing differently? But if your client's not doing anything differently and your client's getting the same latency as everybody else in Hawaii with that ISP, you'll have to switch ISPs. If the latency is that important, we can solve everything with money. We can get them a dedicated fiber line, I'm sure, for a couple $1,000s a month. You could probably try Starlink. I mean, the latency on that should be terrible, but compared to what? So if you know somebody in Hawaii with similar internet service or the same provider, and their latency is faster than yours, then what's different? Is it how they're using it? Again, the latency could be falling on the opposite side. If I have a bullhorn and I stand at one end of the field and I say, hello, can you hear me? And you're at the opposite end of the field, an acre away, and you say yes, without a bullhorn, I can't hear you back. You can hear me, but I can't hear you. And then I say to my friend, how can I hear them better? What can you do for me so I can hear them? Nothing. That person on the other side has to ask for the help. You see what I'm getting at? It's a one-sided, if the problem's on the other side, then the other side has to solve it. Nothing you can do. If the problem's with the internet service provider, then compared to what? Is there somebody else with the same internet service provider there locally that's getting a very different response than you are? What are you comparing it to? Are you being reasonable, or is your client being reasonable and suggesting what you have isn't good enough, but it's good enough for everybody else on the island? I don't understand. And in which case, open up your wallet. We'll get you a dedicated fiber line. I'm sure it's possible. But if the problem is still on the other side, it won't help you. You'll get what you want, but you won't get the results you were after. So be careful of that. Clients don't understand the complexities involved, and it's your job to educate them and to understand where your hands are tied and explain that to them. Save everybody a lot of time and trouble. That would be my advice. If a client came up to me with the same thing you're describing, the first thing I need to know is compared to who. The latency is slow compared to who. Once we've identified, oh, well, there's another business next door, and they're using the same internet service provider, and their latency is much, much lower than ours. Okay, well, are they doing something differently than you? Or maybe you've got a bad piece of networking equipment. Maybe your modem or your router is very old. Depending on whether or not that's provided by your ISP, might still fall back to a different tech, not you. But we'd have to start there, because most of the time you won't go any further. Most of the time they're getting the same service you are. Then if there is a difference, then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's how you're using it. So if you're using it to contact a server on the West Coast, say in California or something, and you're in Hawaii, but that server's internet service is slower, there's nothing you can do about it. That'll be for the people in California to deal with. The customer should be informed about how all this works so that they don't expect you to perform miracles and then think you're a loser or incompetent if you can't perform miracles because you didn't inform them, to educate them on what you're capable or what a technician in general is capable of. They need this explained to them, it sounds like, anyway. So there's our final scores. Let me go full screen over here, get rid of camera 1 for a second. What did we end up with here? 1724 is our single core score, which puts us right up at the top there, compared to even an 11th Gen i7. And let's do a print screen on this. So we'll do just a function print screen, but whoops, I didn't want that on my screen. Function print screen button, and then we'll go to paint. And edit, paste, file, save. Go to the desktop and save it as a JPEG. And this will be Cinebench R23 space results. With that saved, I can close everything now. And there's our results there. And that means I don't need this anymore. I can delete it. I don't need this anymore. I can delete it. I don't need that anymore. I don't need that. We still have VLC to install, so let's throw that on there real quick. And then let's bring up Uncle Carey's Windows 11 Optimizer and run that, and then reboot, and this thing will be done, other than the activation. So like I said, we can reach out if we want to ADREAMER and ask for a product key, or ask them to tell us what we should do. They'll probably just offer you the product key. Don't demand a product key. Don't be rude. And if you don't get what you want, just return it back to Amazon. But chances are, if you're not rude, it's pretty standard practice for many PC manufacturers, including Nemo, the laptop maker, to just provide you the key upon you asking for it. And if you say, well, I shouldn't have to ask for it, well, then return the unit to Amazon. That's all. No big deal. Okay, so there you go. You might be wondering, would I recommend this laptop? Well, I don't see why not. If that's the worst thing we have to complain about is the way it was packaged, it kind of looked like it had been repackaged, but we don't know. We know it's an older machine, so probably there's limited supply of these, and when they're gone, they won't be making any more. They probably haven't made any more for a long time. I'm guessing this is like excess. I'm guessing. And once they're gone, they'll be gone forever. So will it last 8 years? I mean, assuming you take care of it, it's not built any differently than any other mini PC, so I don't see why not. I love how easy it is to get into. I love that extra fan up here to cool that area of your NVMe drive, plus the fact that it's got the two thermal pads. I love that it's a toolless entry. I'm not quite sure what the speed of the ports are, but that's not important to me. When you're dealing at under a $400 price point with RAM and storage included, you're almost getting the computer for free. So the fact that the rest of the computer isn't worth the difference of the cost when you subtract out the price of a 512 gig NVMe drive and the price of a single stick of DDR5 5600 RAM, there's not much left over for the rest of the computer. So the fact that you're getting a computer at all, the processor, the motherboard, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the power adapter, the cooling system, you're basically getting it for pennies for what's left over. When you divide what's left over by everything else that has to get paid for, and you say that's not enough, wow. Wow. I don't want to ever work for you. Jeez. So for this price point, a lot of other mini PCs that are more powerful have faster ports, maybe Oculink, USB 4. They will be bare bones at this point, at this price point. You'll have to provide your own storage and RAM, and then you can add another $300. But you'll also get $300 worth of value out of it. Beggars can't be choosers. If you want something basic, don't expect it to be the Royal Crown when it came for free in a box of Cracker Jacks. It's probably a cheap plastic thing. Just feel like this is such common sense. People sometimes have very unrealistic expectations. With those expectations set properly, I'd say, you know what? I wouldn't hesitate to buy this. There's more about it I like than I don't like. And the things I don't like are very, very minor. Now, as far as like, what's their support like? I don't know. In most cases, we never need to contact support on other mini PCs or computers in general. They just work. I've never contacted Samsung support. I've never contacted Intel at any point of owning this, or Asus or whoever has. Never ever. It's pretty rare these days that you would need to do that unless you did something to it. But you've got that 30 days to return it regardless, so you can decide for yourself if it meets your values or it doesn't. But yeah, I'm glad that this was pointed out to me, because that's a real hidden treasure. It really is. And while it would be nice that it activated at that price point, so what? And for all we know, when we email them, even if they take a couple days to get back to us, we don't have to wait. The computer still works without activation, and you never have to activate this computer. That is just an optional thing you may choose to do for personalization reasons. If you don't have any concern about changing your wallpaper or that other nonsense, who cares about activation? You can completely ignore it. Like I said, I know somebody who runs a computer. They've been running it for at least 8 years plus. Never once activated it, and to my knowledge, they're still using it today. They just get the little watermark in the corner that says, oh, you need to activate. They just ignore it. It doesn't prevent them from doing anything. At least nothing they want to do. They don't want to change the wallpaper. They could care less. On the other hand, if we reach out to them and they say, oh, we're sorry for the inconvenience. Here's a Windows 11 home key. Now I just put Pro on it. Say, well, could I get a Pro? Just respond and ask. Can I get thank you for the offer. Can I get a Pro key instead? In most cases, they say yeah, but maybe they don't for some reason. Then you could revert back to home or buy a key for Pro. Because let's face the honest truth. If you're the kind of person who cares about stuff like this then you're probably the kind of person that thinks Windows 11 Home is not good enough anyway. And you would want Pro, which you would have to pay for, regardless if it was activated or not. Nothing's changed for you. I want you to think about that. So if you reach out to ADREAMER and they voluntarily offer you the key, and it's a home key, and you're like, well, I really wanted Pro, then what you're asking them, I want you to think about this, you're asking them to give you a free upgrade. But if it came with Windows 11 Home, activated, and you wanted Pro, would you still expect them to give you the free upgrade? Probably not. Is that fair? And it doesn't mean they won't do it, but is it even a fair thing to ask? But maybe you're like, no, I'd be happy with Windows 11 Pro. I just shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, you probably don't have to, in which case ADREAMER will probably just send you the key. But until we know, I would assume they will, until proven otherwise, because everybody else does. All of their competitors, as far as I know, they all do it. So if they don't, or if they don't respond to your support request or something like that, different story. And then you have to decide for yourself, is it worth it to just buy the key and be done with it, or just return it? You'll have 30 days. You'll know within 30 days, because you can return it to Amazon free, no charge, keep the box, put everything back in the box, which in this case is real easy. It didn't come with much, and return it for free and get a full refund, and then share your experience. Don't get upset over something that hasn't happened. Don't be upset over what might happen. Give them an opportunity, give them the benefit of the doubt, and then respond happily or sadly based on actual events that really occurred outside of your head, because that's what matters. Andy said, let's see, it's on the website. Oh, it's so Mara says the model name is different than what the model name is. So this is an Ariebox10?
Yes.
And on the website, what's it called?
It's a PB07.
PB07 could be a model number versus a model name. Okay, I don't know, does it say PB07?
You have an email.
Oh, and I've got an email, thank you. Oh, I hear a cat. Hold on, I gotta have some more of my elixir of life. Andy says, Mara, if you scroll down, they do call it the ADREAMER Ariebox10. You just have to scroll further down. So probably a model number versus a model name.
All right, well,
that's pretty common. But I can understand how that would be difficult to find. So on the website, do you see drivers for that? Not that we needed them. Mara?
What?
On the website, do you see drivers downloadable for this?
I don't know, I didn't look.
Well, what are you doing? I'm busy doing a show. You're petting me. Oh, sorry, I didn't have my priorities right. Please forgive me, Kat. Let me just do everything myself.
Oh, fine.
So Mara did update the video notes, so I guess I could just refresh the page and click on the link while we're here. We're about ready to wrap it up today, so I'm just trying to work more efficiently, see how well that works for me. Let me refresh the page here, and we'll look at the updated video notes under today's video. Official. Same specs, different model name. No, I think it's the same model name, just model number versus model name. Let's do the window capture. Oh, they offer it as bare bones. Interesting. Talk to sales. So what you could do, I suppose, would be talk to sales and explain, like what I would do is talk to sales and say, hey, my machine wasn't activated. I reinstalled because it had Windows 22 H2. I put 25 H2 and I put the Pro version would it be possible for me to get you to send me a pro key? See if they say yes or no. Otherwise, I'll have to put Windows Home back on it if I'm too cheap to buy my own key, or I feel like it's a principal thing. As far as the I/O, it doesn't tell us the speed of these USB ports, so I'm not quite sure. I would assume the worst, right? If they're USB 3.0, they're probably 5 gig per second. It does say it comes with Windows 11 Home. So it would be reasonable to expect a Windows 11 Home product key, but it couldn't hurt to ask for the Pro key since they have to provide it anyway, in which case you're being upgraded for the inconvenience for free if they choose to do that, and that would be something to be thankful about, not to complain about. But until we give them the opportunity, we don't know what they're going to respond. I love how this person's playing a video game without any cables plugged in. Apparently this is the wireless version. Oh gosh. So they're a white box. They want us basically to call this the Holzman PC, to order 1,000 of them and put the Holzman PC name on them. They're not really intended to go directly to consumer, but it looks like they're doing it anyway. So I'd be very curious what their support is like. It's very different doing customer support with consumers than customer support with businesses. Two different things. Is there any support here? Because I don't see a support option. There's About Us, Contact Us. What does Contact Us bring up? Big company. Right here, Ellen Chen. You can reach out to Elon. Technical support. This would be the actual, this would be the proper service at adreamertech.com. Hey, I just got this computer off Amazon. The Windows 11 was 22H2. It was not activated. It says it wasn't a valid key. I decided to reinstall fresh from scratch 25H2, and I decided to upgrade myself to Pro. Can you send me a Pro key? See what they say. Worst they could say is no. Then you could choose to say, well, can I have my Windows Home key? They should say yes. If they say no, then say, well, then I'm returning this to Amazon. Okay? No big deal. And then if they tell you no, don't ever buy from them again, because that's not good customer service compared to their competitors that will happily give you the keys. Nemo says, we'll give you a Windows 11 or Windows Pro, Home or Pro key. You just have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. They also have WeChat and WhatsApp available, but I would just use email because of the language barrier and the heavy accents. But they're 12 hours difference from the United States, so right now it's probably 4 in the morning over there. We're pretty damn close to it. And if it's a weekend, you know, just know during regular business hours with the time zone differences, although it says we're available 24/7, we can test it out and see what happens. But again, it's a $377 computer. If it was $3,000, this would be far more important to me. But nonetheless, it's always good to get good customer service, even if you bought something for a nickel. Don't expect it at a nickel, but if you do get it, all the more reason to love them, right? To give them repeat business and speak highly of them. But I don't see any downloads for this. Not that we needed any, but like, you know, as far as BIOSes or anything like that, there's no option for support here. So I guess if you did need a driver, you would have to reach out to their support for it. They would probably email you a link. I don't see anything down here for support. Nothing. Okay. We're living in some pretty interesting times that people want to buy direct from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer will sell you directly. A lot of this isn't allowed in the United States, depending on your industry. You cannot buy a beer from Budweiser. It is illegal. Just so you know. The people who make the beer are not allowed to sell you the beer. Ford and Chevy and Nissan, they're not allowed to sell you a car. That's illegal in the United States. They have to have an independent dealership. And it was a big fight with Tesla because the dealerships, the lobbies and the unions for the dealerships said, oh, you can't let Tesla sell directly to the customer. That's illegal, trying to protect their jobs. And I don't know the details, but obviously you could buy direct from Tesla. Name another car that you can do that from, because I'm not aware of one. So how Elon pulled that off is pretty incredible. But if you watch, there's a content creator called Delivered, and he shows the car buying process. These dealers are a nightmare. Universally, it's pretty rare that you run into a dealer that was helpful. But if you buy directly from Tesla, this customer service is always good. It's not inconsistent based on the dealership. You reminded me about my email?
Well, there's that too, but I mean, in checking, so they're really not set up to
deal with that.
Directly assist with consumers like you've already said. So downloading anything from them, no.
Well, we can still email them and ask for a product key and see if we get a response, how long it takes to get a response, and if the response is helpful or not. Just to set expectations. Oh, Mark Gaines sent us an Amazon gift card. Hope you enjoy this Amazon gift card. Here's a few coppers for your coffers. Thank you, Mark. $25 Amazon gift card. We'll use that for sure. And I think it's everything. Just some messages from Amazon wanting me to promote things to you guys. Because I'm an Amazon affiliate, Amazon sends me these emails wanting me to market summer dresses and flip-flops. I just delete those. You can earn a lot of money, the latest fashion trends in the summer. But obviously that's for other influencers, not me. All right, I think that about wraps it up today. So unless you have any final questions. Old man, so the USB port shows USB 3.2 Gen 2. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how we would verify that. I guess we'd have to plug in a flash drive that was capable of USB 3.2 Gen 2 or better and then run a speed test on it. At this price point, again, I don't expect too much. The fact that it's got USB 3, you know what I mean? It seems highly unlikely that you're going to buy a $400 computer and plug a $2,000 external drive into it. Not that you wouldn't, it just seems like a weird thing, a weird combination. But it's an exaggeration, I don't know where, of a $2,000 drive. But the way prices are going, maybe tomorrow. And he says it doesn't look like they deal with individual consumers a lot. Agreed. But the fact that they're open to it, I wouldn't hesitate to reach out and give them an opportunity to offer you customer service. Until proven otherwise, there's no way to know until we try. Orban Colossus says he's got an i5 1345U, 16 gigs of RAM with Windows 10. I had 4 previous users. I want to start fresh. What's the best OS I can run on it? What we just installed today is what I would put on it if I were you. Windows 11 25H2. Follow our video on how to make that Windows 11 flash drive. Follow the video on how to install it. Follow the video on how to update it. That's it. It's super, super, super easy. You're really overthinking this, my friend. Nothing else. There's nothing you need to do. Just follow the video. Don't go in the BIOS. Don't make any changes. Don't worry about TPM. Don't worry about all this other clutter in your head because it doesn't amount to anything in reality. Now, in the process, if you run into a stumbling point, in reality, for real, we can help you. But if the only stumbling points that are preventing you from starting is afraid of what might happen, I can't help you. There's no way anybody can help you. You have to actually do something first. And if you actually do it, you'll probably find that you talked about it longer than it actually took you to do, and that there were no problems at all. If I'm wrong, and you do have a problem, you can reach out to us, which is a great time for me to show the email address on the screen as a reminder to all of you. If you ever want to reach out to us for any help or assistance, the email address is right here. We love hearing from you guys. We're happy to help. But if you're worried about what's going to happen, we can't help you. There's nothing anybody can do to help you. Until something happens, there's nothing to fix. And there's nothing to worry about breaking. It's completely all in your head. If I could reach in your head and fix that, I would. But you just have to be bold and take the steps. And in taking the steps, if you get turned around or lost, I can guide you to where you want to go. But in most cases, when you take the steps, in my experience with dealing with real people online, once you get them started, they don't need your help. It was really easier than they thought. And they got so overwhelmed with information online of horror stories, the fear was the biggest disease they had. And I'm not a doctor. I can't cure you with fear. You have to face your own fear and face it. And once you do, in most cases, you realize there was absolutely nothing for you to be worried about. It's all just a waste of energy. So do something. Stop thinking about doing something and do it. And if you get stuck in the way, in the process of doing things, we're here to help you. But until then, all we can do is encourage you. You can do it. You've got this, but we cannot do it for you unless you want to pay us. And if you want to learn, you're going to have to do it yourself. And you're probably going to find it was way easier than you thought it was going to be, and there are no problems at all. Prove me wrong. But again, we're here to help you anyway. So if you do run into a stumbling point, once you tell us what specifically that is, we can tell you specifically how to get around it every single time. No exceptions. Thank you to Mara, our channel administrator, for all the work she does in the background with our thumbnail creation and working with potential vendors to send us products for review. And thank you to Mark Leibowitz and Andy in our chat room, Andy W6AD, for recommending bringing this to our attention. I had no idea. This may be a little secret hidden treasure. And the fact that it is on the website suggests that they're still selling it. You know, I don't know. I don't know the status of manufacture, but with a Windows 11 of 22H2 on it, it's a pretty old design. So I don't think they're still making it. But, you know, maybe they got tons of inventory. You know, who knows? Solid value. Very good deal in today's market. And one of the easiest PCs to open up and access with no tools, plus 2 NVMe slots, plus upgradable Wi-Fi. USB ports 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Modern mini PCs, more expensive ones, will have 6. Maybe 7. 6 is more common, but that's just one USB port. Who cares? The dual RJ45 LAN is pretty darn cool, even though most people only need one. The fact that you can run 3 monitors at the same time, again, at a price point like this, we're living in pretty good damn times. If you think that's expensive, let me bring you back to 1991, and let's take a look at how much a 40 megabyte hard drive cost and 4 megs of RAM. And in 1990s money, you could about triple it to be today's money, or at least double today's money, based on the inflation of, you know, of the dollar basically becoming worth less and less. You need $2 today to pay for what was $1 in the 90s. So if it cost $400 in the 90s, it'd be $800 in today's valuations. So I don't know how anybody could complain, honestly. There's also a little Kensington lock here on the side. If you were worried that this thing could grow legs and walk away, you can buy the little steel cable at Amazon or other places and lock it up. Put a cable in there and chain it up like you would a bicycle. Wrap the cable around the leg of a table or something that's bolted to the floor. Loop the cable around itself and plug the end in there. That ain't going nowhere. Not without some bolt cutters. Or somebody steals your whole table. Is the M2 SATA? No, it's NVMe, not SATA. If the M.2 were SATA, we would have seen speeds of 550 maximum megabytes, and we got speeds 10 times, almost 10 times that. If you're asking, is it backwards compatible to SATA? I don't know, but why would you do that? You know, why would you cripple the machine? If you had a SATA drive you wanted to use on this, I would put it in an external enclosure and plug it into the USB port. Because even USB 3 at 5 gigabits per second is capable of moving SATA at full speed across USB without trapping the heat and having to open it up. And then you've also got your data external should you need it. You know, if the machine dies, it doesn't boot, it's a virus. To have your drive external is much safer. It's just as fast. And there'd be no reason to put it inside of here unless you just want to make your life miserable and slow your machine down. So if the port identification on Amazon is correct, and this is USB 3.2 Gen 2, then it would be 10 gigabits per second, which could move 1,000 megabytes per second across the USB port, almost twice what a SATA drive does. Just FYI. Jim Kenny said the ADREAMER site said it was SATA 3. Does it? Let's go take a look. Let me go back over there because I didn't see that. On Amazon, it says they're both Gen 4 by 4. See, if we look at Amazon, go to my not display capture, it's window capture. It says high-speed dual channel RAM, even though it's not in dual channel mode. 512 gig. It's got two M.2 2280 PCIe 4. So I don't see anything about SATA here. On the other hand, sometimes what the companies put on Amazon doesn't match what they put on their own website. So where was that? Was that over here? Let's see. The specs. Up here. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It does say it supports SATA. So does that mean that's a typo on this side? Or does it mean it'll do both? Some will do both, NVMe and SATA. But again, why would you put SATA in it? This looks, if it is SATA compatible, why would you? We know that it's NVMe because it's running an NVMe. We didn't check the other port to verify though. So could one port be SATA only? Until we test it, it's not clear. I mean, it's also saying it's USB 4, which I don't think it is, but it could be. That's a difficult thing to test. If it were really USB 4, then that does 40 gigabits per second, which is 4,000 megabytes a second on a data transfer. So if we had a Gen 4 NVMe drive in an enclosure and we hooked it into that port and see how fast it is, that's one way we could tell what speed the port is if it matches USB 4. I don't know if we can look in the device manager that would be a tell. Well, let's take a look. Oh, my optimizer was done. Okay, very good. Windows activation is not on. Secure boot is not on. Okay, good to know. Let's look in the device manager and see if we see a USB 4 controller. USB 4. Yeah, in fact, it is USB 4 right there. There you go. So yeah, it does appear to be full USB 4. I'll have to come up with some kind of way to test these USB ports that's a little easier. But that's impressive at this price point. I certainly would not expect it. So that feels like icing on the cake. feel like for you to get all that, seems like they're way undercharging for this. So get them while they're hot, because once they sell out, I can't imagine they're still making these. And if you regret it, you've got 30 days to return it from Amazon for a full refund, so you've got nothing to lose. But if you wait too long and you can't make up your mind, by the time you make up your mind, they might be sold out. So just so you know. Andy confirms the CPU does support Gen 4 and USB 4 ports. Very good. There you go. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, Andy says just because it's USB 4 does it. It could run at 20 or it could run at 40, but regardless. Well, it's interesting. What are you expecting? Like, if you think this is only worth buying for the USB 4 port, then what kind of drive are you plugging in? And why are you spending so much on your external drive and so little on your computer? That doesn't add up for me. Like, I don't understand what you're thinking. This is a budget computer, and one would assume that if you're buying a budget computer, you probably don't have USB 4 devices because they're expensive. Maybe because you bought a bunch of USB 4 devices that are expensive, you can't afford to buy a decent computer? Is that it? I don't understand. How does that make any sense? Now, if I'm buying an expensive high-end computer, it better have USB 4, because I probably have expensive high-end things I need to plug into it. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe the world's changed. But last I checked, that's usually the way things work. So, well, it's an interesting curiosity. It doesn't change the value proposition for me, because I don't even have customers that use USB 4. Not a single one. So having it is what? Future-proofing for something? Well, you're not future-proofing your computer if you're buying this. This is pretty low-end, good value for the money, but not something that, you know, it's not a server. It's not a workstation. It's a pretty basic machine. But having the Type-C port, regardless of its USB 3 or 4, that's a good thing, because there's a varying amount of devices, more and more coming with USB Type-C ports, or Type-C plugs rather. So it's nice to have at least one, should you have a device, maybe your phone, that you don't have to buy an adapter for it, you just plug it straight in. Because there's only one on here, there's nothing in there's no USB Type-C on the back, just the one in the front. So that's added bonus as far as I'm concerned, whether it runs at full speed or not. Having it at all is surprising in a good way, in my opinion. So thank you guys for pointing that out. Thank you for your help, Andy. Again, thanks to Mark Leibowitz as well for pointing out this machine. We wouldn't have it without them. And to everybody in green and all of your support and contributions that we use to pay for this wouldn't have happened without our viewers. So a shout out to our viewers for keeping us alive in this very difficult place called YouTube, where the marketing has left us abandoned, and unless we kowtow to them and we say, yes, master, what can I do to collect a check? And then they say, well, we just need your soul and your firstborn. Here you go, take them. Hey, wait a minute, these were repoed. Well, sorry about that. I just don't want to, I don't want to kowtow. I don't want to be beholden to a check that I have to meet requirements. The only thing I want to do is do my job the way I do it, not the way somebody else wants it done, the way I do it. The way I do it, I can warranty it, I can support it, and I can keep you up and running reliably, indefinitely, and I can recover your company or your situation under any circumstance. Fires, thefts, floods, earthquakes, robberies, viruses, you name it, I got you. But it has to be done the way I do it. If you don't want to do it that way, I don't want to do it, because you're going to blame me, right? What am I paying you for? So we do it my way. And in much the same way I want to run my YouTube channel, the same way I run my business, and I want to talk to my viewers the same way I talk to my paying customers. I don't want that changed because of a corporation's influence. Corporations don't influence my business, and they won't influence me here on YouTube. Now, if a corporation that I really like wants to partner up with us, like I like VIP-URCD keys, I like minis for them, bring it on. But I've just named 2 companies out of 10 million companies around the planet, and I don't want to work with any of them. I mean, if Coca-Cola wanted to sponsor us, or Levi's, I love their products. Bring it on. Not quite sure why they'd want to do that. I don't need to know why, because that won't affect my technical journalistic integrity because Coca-Cola sponsors. I wish. If anybody's sponsoring anybody, I'm sponsoring them by buying their product and then showing it on camera for free. And if they're already getting it for free, why would they pay me? They're not stupid. So here we are because of our viewers. So thank you so much for everybody in green for supporting us here. And some of you for 4 years now, which is incredible loyalty, and it means the world to me. So that'll wrap it up for today, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. We will be reviewing yet another mini PC, brand new, unboxing and testing this Sunday. Now, I don't know which one yet. We've got a GMK Tech, we've got an AOO Star, we've got the other little cube, we've got, what else? Oh, that Glorlin, which is a subsidy of Gatorly. We've got that one. So I'm so grateful to have work right now because everything is so dried up without selling out. All thanks to you. I don't see any other questions in the chat room, so I guess we'll wrap it up for today. And if you missed the opportunity to ask, just send us the email. Just rewind a bit. The email address is there. And yeah, Frankie, if you have any other questions regarding Windows installs, just email us and I can send you the links. Okay? And that's true for all of you. If any of you end up buying one of these, please share your experience with us. In the meantime, we'll reach out to ADREAMER about the product key scenario, and we'll give them an opportunity to do the right thing. We'll see how long it takes to get a response, and will they only provide a Windows 11 home key? If so, we don't need it. Or I could just do this all over again with Windows 11 home if I want to. But I could just buy the key. It's not that much for what we saved on this anyway. Come on. I was going to say something. Yeah, I think that was really the only downside. Everything else looks great. So I think you guys just uncovered a hidden treasure, a great value. All the sheep, you know, if we were some big popular YouTube channel, these would have already sold out before the end of the show. So thank goodness we're not that big. We're kind of a tight community here, so we can kind of keep this within our clubhouse. So you have time to buy one, and you're not competing against the world to try and acquire them. And again, you've got that 30-day return policy with Amazon if you choose to buy it from Amazon, that if you don't like it for any reason, return it completely for free with a 100% refund. What have you got to lose? For better or for worse, if you do have the experience, we would love to hear your actual experience. And if you're trying to do something, or reinstall and upgrade, and you're worried about things, stop worrying about things that haven't happened. Do the work. In most cases, you won't even need any help. It'll be so much easier. Should you need help when something actually happens in reality and not just in your head, at that point, we can help you 100% of the time, guaranteed. But if you haven't done it yet and you're just worried about what might happen, we cannot help you. You actually have to do something first. Crazy, right? But that is a condition of help. You actually must need it in reality, not only in your head. So if you do have an actual TPM issue, or you have some other issue as a result of installing Windows 11, tell us. But you're not going to. You're going to install it and it's going to be fine. Nearly every single time, all of this fear and anxiety is completely stressing you out for no reason at all, worrying about imaginary things. You might as well worry about Bigfoot and Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, and Chupacabra. ghosts and other nonsense. I can't help you with that. And if that's your thing, enjoy it. But I don't want to be a part of that. I've got actual things to do in reality, which includes helping you, by the way, when you're ready. If you haven't done anything yet, you're not ready for the help. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll look forward to seeing you back here on Sunday at 1 o'clock with another mini PC unboxing. We'll follow up with this on a part 2 and let you know. I don't know if we really need a full part 2. But we're going to email them, see what kind of delay there is in a response, see what the response is, and report back with real-world experience, not from our imagination. And that'll be it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Until then, bye for now.